Hello. I'm not reading that yet. We have pets. Mood lighting. Yes, we have the mood lighting today. Mm-hmm. Luke is muted. That's weird. One second, everybody. Hold on. I didn't. I think it's just missing on here. Hold on. No, no, I didn't forget about you. Just hold on. Hold your horses, Luca. Hold your horses.
I don't have horses. They can't even hear this good combat.
I don't have
This
horses.
comeback.
That's what you're saying. I'm sure they can hear you now.
Oh, there you go then. I just heard myself. So,
Mm.
yay.
Yeah, it's just I didn't have audio sources on this for some odd reason.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all good. It's all good. I fixed it.
Nice.
Are you taking reading material recommendation? Maybe?
Maybe.
I think so. I'm gonna read a story, and then Luke is gonna read a story, and then oh, sorry, Lupine, not today.
No sound alerts during story time.
Mm-mm. Oh, I should add that. I should add that. As a caveat. Hold on.
Wait, how long is Thumbelina?
Thumbelina is only 8 pages.
Uh,
No, poor Lupine. It's only because it's cozy. It's Let me know if you'll be taking. Yes. I think we might because I said I'll read a story and then Luke will read a story, and it'll probably be open after that because Lucas says he might have another story, but both of his are kind of long.
yeah, so if possible, I'll just eat one story. It's a good thing I haven't said what the second story was going to be about, but we definitely know what the first one's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So while that happens, I'm going to choose between the two that are long and short.
Hold on, everybody.
This is pretty long, but it's not very long, unlike the first one. Okay. When's the reading of the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy? I don't know, Lupine. Is it something we can actually read on stream without any consequences?
Oh, good one.
Honestly, I don't know when Lord of the Rings when came out, so yeah.
Okay, there. We'll be reading Thumbelina first, so it'll be me first. There will also be no sound alerts on during the story time.
Oh man. I mean, I don't think you can. I think that's like something like a very recent one, but go ahead. You know what? I'm just gonna type it into in the where I'm at. Let's see. Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I don't think Lord of the Rings is public domain.
Yeah, never mind.
But we could probably find a public domain book, like a long book, if people are interested in something like that. You could read an older book. Yeah, like what Silas said. You just pick an older book.
That's right. We should read Pride and Prejudice.
Oh my.
That's it. That's a very long story.
True, true.
You know what? I have never read Pride and Prejudice, but I have seen the BBC TV series,
Hmm.
and I kind of saw the movie, but oh my god, that sucked.
I would
Like,
think, yeah, we could, if we did like a long story, I think it would be okay to do like, kind of like what Alice did on hers, where we like everyone just read a chapter.
woo, 12 whole chapters. That was long.
Yeah, it
I
was
think
long, but it was good though. Read a college textbook? Nah.
I, I'm not trying to fall asleep either.
Okay, I think everything looks good. So we do have the rain sound on, which could also sound like fireplace, which it's kind of interesting. It could be either one depending on how you feel about it. Um, for those who hear it, is it good? Is it too loud? Are you enjoying it? I just want to know. I want to make sure it's cool. I want to make sure everybody's cool. Ooh, Dracula would be good.
The Time Machine?
I feel
Hmm.
like I've heard of the Time Machine, but I don't think I've ever read it. I have read Dracula. I actually personally read Dracula.
You know, there's like a book I did read, I Robot.
Oh,
It uh
yes.
it had nothing to do with the books. I mean, with the movies.
Yeah, sometimes they're not quite correlated. We're not committing arson. All right. Love Dracula. Okay, maybe we'll have to add that. We'll have to add Dracula.
I have to see. Oh, let me look it up. As a concept,
The
I
story
love Dracula as a
it's the
concept.
story itself is kind of like, is it Lucy? Was that the girl's name?
Here, let's Dracula. Dracula.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know how to spell Dracula. Oh wait,
He didn't deserve to
Bronze.
die. Oh, that yeah, it's kind of so tragic. It's just like so what ended up happening is back when I was in school, I actually took theater class multiple times. I never went into theater, but I enjoyed it. So I took theater in both Yokai Hi, and then also in Tengu University. So I one of our one of our requirements was that we had to read like plays or historical like um things that could be like, Dracula was one. I had it like it was one of the ones I had decided to read. So I did it for school, but it was per choice. So it was kind of like, when you have to read something for education, but you get to choose what you read. I love that because then you're just like you get to enjoy it because you made the choice instead of being forced the choice. And I actually did enjoy reading Dracula. A weird Victorian statement about women and purity. And that's clearly why Lucy had to die and Mina did not. Yep. Luca, you're so
Hmm?
ghastly. You're glowing.
I know. I have a very glow. I have a very. I have a glow about myself. Thank you for noticing. Just kidding. I thought maybe kind of want to have my second screen, so I thought maybe I could do like a window
You
and
can.
like have. Oh,
You should be able to. If you want to tinker around for it, or tinker with it, you can.
give me just a moment. I'll do that.
Just instead of doing screen, you do window. Also, should there be sound along with Yokai Story Time?
This is a good sound.
Yeah,
Just
there
the
isn't. We don't
rain,
have any
fire.
music per se. I do have this.
I'll do this.
The rain and the fireplace. Okay, there you go. Oh, you can hear it. Okay, I fixed it. I have a specific bit of Dracula that would be nice to have read. Oh, like a specific part? Like you want me to read a specific part of it? Because I totally will, if you want. Yes. Okay, yeah. One letter. Okay. Let's, since Luca's working on that right now, I'll just do it as an opening. How about we do that really quick? Send it to me.
Ah, whatever. I give up on this thing. There we go. Let's go back to that. No biggie.
Okay. I was just changing our scrolling text there. Okay. So I'm gonna read a letter really quick, Luca. And it's so short. And then I'll move on to Thumbelina.
Okay.
Okay. So, for everyone tuning in, welcome. This is Yokai Story Time. We'll do a quick Yokai hi because that was redeemed earlier. But we won't be like super energetic. Just because we're being cozy right now. You ready, Luca?
Ready.
So instead of being like Yokai hi, we're just gonna be like Yokai hi. Sound good?
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Yokai
Yokai hi.
I am Kyo the Cutie Crow Tengu.
I'm Luca the Bowl Spirit.
And we are
Yokai Playtime.
Yokai Playtime.
Yay.
Yay! Okay. Yokai Playtime. Alright. Letter. Lucy Winstra to Mina Harker from Dracula. Whitby, August 30. My dearest Mina, oceans of love and millions of kisses, and may you soon be in your home with your husband. I wish you were coming home soon enough to stay with us here. The strong air would soon restore Jonathan. It has quite restored me. I have an appetite like a cormorant. I'm full of life and sleep well. You'll be glad to know that I have quite given up on walking in my sleep. I think I have not stirred out of my bed for a week. That is, once I got into it at night. Arthur says I'm getting fat. By the way, I forgot to tell you that Arthur is here. We have such walks and drives, and rides, and rowing, and tennis, and fishing together, and I love him more than ever. He tells me that he loves me more, but I doubt that. For at first, he told me that he couldn't love me more than he did then. But this is nonsense. There he is, calling to me. So no more just as present from your loving. Lucy. P.S. Mother sends her love. She seems better, poor dear. P.P.S. We are to be married September 28th. No. Lucy.
Sad.
Perfect. Good suggestion.
Mm, mm, mm.
All right. But also, we wait with bated breath. Oceans of love and millions of kisses. So good. Yes, so good. Is that a book? I take it? Of like different excerpts of things?
Ready, check.
We begin. Thumbelina. It's gonna be about 8 pages. It's not like super long. But of course, you'll find the end of our story, and it's more like 7.5. 7.5 pages, a little less. Okay. Thumbelina from the Yellow Fairy Book. There was once a woman who wanted to have quite a tiny little child, but she did not know where to get one from. So one day she went to an old witch and said to her, "I should so much like to have a tiny little child. Can you tell me where I can get one?" "Oh, we have just one ready," said the witch. "Here is a barleycorn for you, but it's not the kind the farmer sows in his field, or feeds the cocks and hens with. I can tell you, put it in a flower pot, and then you will see something happen." "Oh, thank you," said the woman, and gave the witch a shilling, for that was its cost. Then she went home and planted the barleycorn. Immediately there grew out of it a large and beautiful flower, which looked like a tulip. The petals were tightly closed, as if it were still only a bud. "What a beautiful flower!" exclaimed the woman, and she kissed the red and yellow petals. But as she kissed them, the flower burst open. It was a real tulip, such as the one can see any day. But in the middle of the blossom, on the green velvety petals, sat a little girl, quite tiny, trim, and pretty. She was scarcely half a thumb in height, so they called her Alina. An elegant, polished walnut shell served as Thumbelina's cradle. The blue petals of violet were her mattress, and a rose leaf her coverlid. There she lay at night, but in the daytime she used to play about on the table. Here the woman had put a bowl surrounded by a ring of flowers with their stalks in water, in the middle of which floated a great tulip petal, and on this Thumbelina sat and sailed from one side of the bowl to the other, rowing herself with 2 white horsehairs for oars. It was such a pretty sight. She could sing, too, with a voice more soft and sweet than any had ever heard before. One night, when she was lying in her pretty little bed, an old toad crept in through a broken pane in the window. She was very ugly, clumsy, and clammy. She hopped on the table where Thumbelina lay asleep under the red rose leaf.
"This would make a beautiful wife for my son,"
said the toad, taking up the walnut shell with Thumbelina inside and hopping with it through the window into the garden. There flowed a great wide stream with slippery and marshy banks. Here the toad lived with her son. Ugh! How ugly and clammy he was, just like his mother. Uh-oh, she in danger. Kidnapped. Chibi Thumbelina napped.
Not yet. Wait.
Yeah, she just got kidnapped.
Oh, okay. I was...
Croak, 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 was all he could say when she saw the pretty little walnut shell.
Don't talk so loud. You'll wake her, said the old toad. She might escape us even now. She's light as a feather. We will put her on once a broad water lily leaf in the stream. That would be quite an island for her. She is so small and light. She can't run away from us there, whilst we are preparing the guest chamber under the marsh where she shall live.
Outside in the brook grew many water lilies with broad green leaves, which looked as if they were swimming about on the water. The leaf furthest away was the largest, and to this the old toad swam with Thumbelina in her walnut shell. The tiny Thumbelina woke up very early in the morning, and when she saw where she was, began to cry bitterly. For on every side of the great green leaf was water, and she could not get to land. The old toad was down under the marsh, decorating her room with rushes and yellow marigold leaves to make it very grand for her new daughter-in-law. Then she swam out with her ugly son to the leaf where Thumbelina lay. She wanted to fetch the pretty cradle to put it in her room before Thumbelina herself came there. The old toad bowed low in the water before her and said,
Here is my son. You shall marry him and live in great magnificence down under the marsh.
Croak, 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 was all the son could say. Then they took the neat little cradle and swam away with it. But Thumbelina sat alone on the green great leaf and wept, for she did not want to live with the clammy toad or marry her ugly son. The little fishes swimming about under the water had seen the toad quite plainly and heard what she had said, so they put up their heads to see the little girl. When they saw her, they thought her so pretty that they were very sorry she should go down with the ugly toad to live. No, that must not happen. They assembled in the water around the green stalk which supported the leaf on which she was sitting, and nibbled the stem in two. Away floated the leaf down the stream, bearing Thumbelina far beyond the reach of the toad. On she sailed past several towns, and the little birds sitting in the bushes saw her and sang.
What a pretty little girl.
The leaf floated farther and farther away, thus Thumbelina left her native land. A beautiful little white butterfly fluttered above her, and at last settled on the leaf. Thumbelina pleased him, and she too was delighted, for now the toads could not reach her, and it was so beautiful where she was traveling. The sun shone on the water and made it sparkle like the brightest silver. She took off her sash and tied one end around the butterfly. The other she fastened to the leaf, so that it now glided along faster than ever. I don't know what that is. Cockchafer? Let me look it up. Is it a bird? Oh, it's a beetle.
I see. I gotta say something though.
Hmm?
Like, I just that one part where like she described those little things described that Thumbelina was beautiful,
Yeah.
and they're like, they won't marry that ugly toad. I was like, what the heck? Does he have an ugly personality? All I heard was ugly toad. Like, man, get out of here! Get out of here!
Lucas,
You
No.
don't deserve her, King. You don't deserve her.
Wow.
Even though the mom did do something horrible.
I mean,
but
the
still.
mom kidnapped her from her own mother and was forcing her to marry her toad son, who didn't even speak.
Watch it. I'm pretty sure that toad is actually a prince. Oh, look at that!
Probably not.
The toad is a prince, and that's where the next part is. Where what was that one story where you need to kiss the prince, the frog?
The Princess and the Frog, or the Frog Prince.
There you go, everyone. That if Thumbelina stayed with the frog, she would have got married and lived in a castle. So, yeah.
I'm
The
gonna turn
point is,
Luca down.
don't judge a book by their cover.
Okay, so it says, so this beetle flew above her. It's called a cockchafer. which is a bay bug or a may beetle bug. Just so everyone kind of understands what that was, because I had no idea, so I figured I should look it up. So I'll just say beetle. A great beetle came flying past. He caught sight of Thumbelina, and in a moment he had put his arms around her slender waist and had flown off with her to a tree. The green leaf floated away down the stream, and the butterfly with it, for he was fastened to the leaf and could not get loose from it. Oh, that poor butterfly. Oh dear, how terrified poor little Thumbelina was when the cockchafer flew off with her to the tree. But she was especially distressed on the beautiful white butterfly's account, as she had tied him so fast that if he could not get away, he must starve to death. But the beetle did not trouble himself about that. He sat down with her on a large green leaf, gave her the honey out of the flowers to eat, and told her she was very pretty, although she wasn't in the least like the beetle. Later on, the other beetles who lived in the same tree came to pay calls. They examined Thumbelina closely and remarked, "Why, she only has 2 legs. How miserable."
She has no feelers, cried another. How ugly she is, said all the lady beetles.
And yet Thumbelina was really very pretty. The beetle who had stolen her knew this very well, and when he heard all the ladies saying she was ugly, began to think so too, and would not keep her. She might go where she liked. So he flew down from the tree with her and put her on a daisy. There she sat and wept, because she was so ugly that the beetle would have nothing to do with her. That's just messed up.
How is that messed up?
Because he thought she was pretty, and then basically he listened to everyone's opinions and didn't form his own, and then decided that because everyone else said she was ugly, that she was ugly.
I'm not gonna sugarcoat her. These things are like different species, and the moment that they see Thumbelina's like, she's the most beautiful creature I've ever seen. Have you ever seen anyone else of their own kind? Shoot, if I saw something, I was like, what the heck is that ugly thing? I wouldn't know that if that's beautiful or not. But that's just my opinion.
That's true. I mean, I get that. But yeah, wow, rude. Okay, and yet she was the most beautiful creature imaginable, so soft and delicate, like the loveliest rose leaf. The whole summer, poor little Thumbelina lived alone in the great wood. She plaited a bed for herself of leaves of grass and hung it up under a clover leaf so that she was protected from the rain. She gathered honey from the flowers for food and drank the dew on the leaves every morning. Thus the summer and autumn passed, and then came winter, the long, cold winter. All the birds who had sung so sweetly about her had flown away. The trees shed their leaves. Flowers died. The great clover leaf under which she had lived curled up, and nothing remained of it but the withered stalk. She was terribly cold, for her clothes were ragged, and she herself was so small and thin. Poor little Thumbelina! She would surely be frozen to death. It began to snow, and every snowflake that fell on her was like a whole shovelful thrown at her at once, for we are so big, and she was only an inch high. She wrapped herself around a dead leaf, but it was torn in the middle and gave her no warmth. She was trembling with cold. Just outside the wood, where she was now living, lay a great cornfield, but the corn had been gone a long time. Only the dry, bare stubble was left standing in the frozen ground. This made a forest for her to wander about in. All at once, she came across the door of a field mouse, who had a little hole under a cornstalk. There the mouse lived warm and snug, with a storeroom full of corn, a splendid kitchen, and a dining room. Poor little Thumbelina went up to the door and begged for a little piece of barley, for she had not had anything to eat the last
last 2 days.
Something something universal beauty. For the record, I think that's BS. I agree.
Oh, poor little creature, said the field mouse, for she was a kind-hearted old thing at the bottom. Come into my warm home and have dinner with me. As Thumbelina pleased her, she said, as far as I'm concerned, you may spend the winter with me, but you must keep my room clean and tidy and tell me stories, for I like that very much. And Thumbelina did all the kind old field mouse asked, and did it remarkably well, too. Now, I'm expecting a visitor, said the field mouse. My neighbor comes to call on me once a week. He is in better circumstances than I am, has great big rooms, and wears a fine black velvet coat. If you could only marry him, you would be well provided for. But he is blind. You must tell him all the prettiest stories you know.
But Thumbelina did not trouble her head about him, for he was only a mole. He came and paid them a visit in the black velvet coat.
He is so rich and so accomplished, the field mouse told her. His house is 20 times larger than mine. He possesses great knowledge, but he cannot bear the sun and the beautiful flowers, and speaks slightingly of them, for he has never seen them.
Thumbelina had to sing to him, and so she sang, Ladybird, ladybird, fly away home, and other songs so prettily that the mole fell in love with her. But he did not say anything. He was a very cautious man. A short time before, he had dug a long passage through the ground from his own house to that of his neighbor. In this, he gave the field mouse and Thumbelina permission to walk as often as they liked. But he begged them not to be afraid of the dead bird that lay in the passage. It was a real bird with beak and feathers, and must have died a little time ago, and now lay buried just where he had made his tunnel. The mole took a piece of rotten wood in his mouth, for that glows like fire in the dark, and went up front, lighting them through the long, dark passage. When they came to the place where the dead bird lay, the mole put his broad nose against the ceiling and pushed a hole through so that the daylight could shine down. In the middle of the path lay a dead swallow, his pretty wings pressed close to his sides, his claws and head drawn under his feathers. The poor bird had evidently died of cold. Thumbelina was very sorry, for she was very fond of all little birds. They had sung and twittered so beautifully to her all through the summer. But the mole kicked him with his bandy legs and said,
Now he can't sing any more. It must be very miserable to be a little bird. I'm thankful that none of my children are. Birds always starve in winter. Yes, you speak like a sensible man, said the field mouse. What has a bird in spite of all its singing in the winter time? He must starve and freeze. And that must be very pleasant for him, I must say.
Thumbelina did not say anything, but when the other two had passed on, she bent down to the bird, brushed aside the feathers from his head, and kissed his closed eyes gently. Perhaps it was that he sang to me so prettily in the summer, she thought. How much pleasure he did give me, dear little bird. The mole closed up the hole again, which let in the light, and then escorted the ladies home. But Thumbelina could not sleep that night, so she got out of bed and plaited a great big blanket of straw and carried it off and spread it over the dead bird and piled upon it thistledown as soft as cotton wool, which she had found in the field mouse's room, so that the poor little thing should lie warmly buried. Farewell, pretty little bird, she said. Farewell, and thank you for your beautiful songs in the summer, when the trees were green and the sun shone down warmly on us. Then she lay her head against the bird's heart, but the bird was not dead. He had been frozen, but now that she had warmed him, he was coming to life again. In autumn, swallows fly away for foreign lands, but there are some who are late in starting, and then they get so cold that they drop down as if dead, and the snow comes and covers them over. Thumbelina trembled. She was so frightened, for the bird was very large in comparison with herself, only an inch high. But she took courage, piled up the down more closely over the poor swallow, fetched her own coverlid, and laid it over his head. Next night, she crept out again to him. There, he was alive, very weak. He could only open his eyes for a moment to look at Thumbelina, who was standing in front of him, with a piece of rotten wood in her hand, for she had no other lantern. "Thank you, pretty little child," said the swallow to her. "I am so beautifully warm. Soon I shall regain my strength, and then I shall be able to fly out again into the warm sunshine." "Oh," she said, "it is very cold outside. It is snowing and freezing. Stay in your warm bed. I will take care of you." Then she brought him water in a kettle, which he drank, after which he related to her how he had torn one of his wings on a bramble, so that he could not fly as fast as the other swallows, who had flown far away to warmer lands. So at last he had dropped down exhausted, and then could remember no more. The whole winter he remained down there, and Thumbelina looked after him and nursed him tenderly. Neither the mole nor the field mouse learned anything of this, for they could not bear the poor swallow. When the spring came and the sun warmed the earth again, the swallow said farewell to Thumbelina, who opened the hole in the roof for him, which the mole had made. The sun shone brightly down upon her, and the swallow asked her if she would go with him. She could sit upon his back. Thumbelina wanted very much to fly away into the green wood, but she knew that the old field mouse would be sad if she ran away. "No, I mustn't come," she said. "Oh, that's so sad, poor Thumbelina." "Farewell, dear good little girl," said the swallow, and flew off into the sunshine. Thumbelina gazed after him with tears standing in her eyes, for she was very fond of the swallow. "Tweet, tweet," sang the bird, and flew into the green wood. Thumbelina was very unhappy. She was not allowed to go into the warm sunshine. The corn, which had been sowed in the field over the field mouse's home, grew up high into the air and made a thick forest for the poor little girl, who was only an inch high.
"Now you are to be a bride, Thumbelina,"
said the field mouse, "for our neighbor has proposed to you."
"What a piece of fortune for a poor child like you. Now you must set to work at your linen for your dowry, for nothing must be lacking if you are to become the wife of our neighbor, the mole."
Thumbelina had to spin all day long, and every evening the mole visited her and told her that when the summer was over, the sun would not shine so hot. Now it was burning the earth as hard as stone. Yes, when the summer had passed, they would keep the wedding. But she was not at all pleased about it, for she did not like the stupid mole. Every morning when the sun was rising, and every evening when it was setting, she would steal out of the house door when the breeze parted the ears of corn, so she could see the blue sky through them. She thought how bright and beautiful it must be outside, and longed to see her dear swallow again. "Yeah, Thumbelina, run! Run!" Never came. No doubt he had flown away far into the great green wood. By the autumn, Thumbelina had finished the dowry.
"In 4 weeks you will be married," said the field mouse. "Don't be obstinate, or I shall bite you with my sharp white teeth. You will get a fine husband. The king himself has not such a velvet coat. His storeroom and cellar are full, and you should be thankful for that."
Well, the wedding day arrived. The mole had come to fetch Thumbelina to live with him down under the ground, never to come out into the warm sun again, for that was what he didn't like. The poor little girl was very sad, for now she must say goodbye to the beautiful sun. "Farewell, bright sun," she cried, stretching out her arms toward it, and taking another step into the house,
for now the corn had been reaped, and only the dry stubble was left standing. Farewell, farewell, she said, and put her arms around a little red flower that grew there. Give my love to the dear swallow when you see him. Tweet, tweet, sounded in her ear all at once. She looked up. There was the swallow flying past. As soon as he saw Thumbelina, he was very glad. She told him how unwilling she was to marry the ugly mole, and then she had to live underground where the sun never shone, and she could not help but burst into tears. The cold winter is coming now, said the swallow. I must fly away to warmer lands. Will you come with me? You can sit on my back, and we will fly far away from the ugly mole and his dark house, over the mountains to the warm countries where the sun shines more brightly than here, for it is always summer, and there are always beautiful flowers. Do come with me, dear Thumbelina, who saved my life when I lay frozen in the dark tunnel. Yes, I will go with you, said Thumbelina, and got on the swallow's back, with her feet on one of his outstretched wings. Up he flew into the air, over the woods and seas, over the great mountains where the snow was always laying, and if she was cold, she crept under his warm feathers, only keeping her little head out to admire all the beautiful things the world had to show beneath. At last they guys, yes, girl, run! 2 forced marriages already. That's too many. Poor Thumbelina doesn't get a say in anything. At last they came to warm lands. There the sun was brighter. The sky seemed twice as high, and in the hedges hung the finest green and purple grapes. In the woods grew oranges, lemons. The air was scented with myrtle and mint, and on the roads were pretty little children running about and playing with great, gorgeous butterflies. But the swallow flew on further, and it became more and more beautiful. Under the most splendid green trees besides a blue lake stood a glittering white marble castle. Vines hung high in the pillars. There were many swallows' nests, and in one of these lived the swallow who was carrying Thumbelina. Here is my house, said he, but it won't do for you to live with me. I am not tidy enough to please you. Find a home for yourself in one of the lovely flowers that grow down there. Now, I will set you down, and you can do whatever you like.
Or, you know, go back to your mom.
I kind of thought that. I'm like, can she just go home? I mean, her poor mama.
I mean, dang. Yeah.
Just big sad. Okay.
That would be splendid, said she, clapping her little hands. There lay a great white marble column which had fallen to the ground and broken into 3 pieces. But between these grew the most beautiful white flowers. Swallow flew down with Thumbelina and set her upon one of the broad leaves. But there, to her astonishment, found a tiny little man sitting in the middle of the flower, as white and transparent as if he were made of glass. He had the prettiest golden crown on his head and the most beautiful wings on his shoulders. He himself was no bigger than Thumbelina. He was the spirit of the flower. In each blossom there dwelt a tiny man or woman, but this one was the king over the others. Oh, how handsome he is, whispered Thumbelina to the swallow. The little prince was very much frightened at the swallow, for in comparison with one so tiny as himself, he seemed a giant. But then he saw Thumbelina. He was delighted, for she was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. So he took his golden crown from his head and put it on hers, asking her name and if she would be his wife. And then she would be queen of all the flowers. Yes, He was a different kind of husband to the son of the toad, and the mole with the black velvet coat. She said yes to the noble prince, and out of each flower came a lady and a gentleman, each so tiny and pretty. It was a pleasure to see them. Each brought Thumbelina a present. The best of all was a beautiful pair of wings which were fastened to her back, and now she too could fly from flower to flower. They all wished her joy, and the swallow sat above in his nest and sang the wedding march. And that he did as well as he could, but he was sad because he was very fond of Thumbelina and did not want to be separated from her. You shall not be called Thumbelina, said the spirit of the flower to her. That is an ugly name, and you are far too pretty for that. We will call you May Blossom.
My gosh, they just stripped her name that her mom just gave her.
I know her poor mom.
Wait.
Wait, go ahead.
Oh wait, I may have missed something, but was her mom a horrible person?
No.
My god. And she just agreed to go with this?
Yep.
My okay, cool. Keep going then.
Farewell, farewell, said the little swallow with a heavy heart, and flew away to farther lands, far, far away, right back to Denmark. There he had a little nest above a window where his wife lived, who can tell fairy stories. Tweet, tweet, he sang to her. And that is the way we learnt the whole story. The end.
Man, Thumbelina was extremely shallow.
I mean, yes.
Oh, a beautiful man, I'll marry you.
But to be fair, okay, so they say spirit of the flowers, but they're basically fairies. Like, so you find out through the story that Thumbelina obviously is a fairy, and like she meets, and it's not just like 2 marriage proposals. It's like she got the frog, and then the beetle stole her because he thought she was pretty, and then it was the mole and the field mouse, and then, you know, the only one that actually really cared for her was was it the sparrow? Which is kind of sad, you know, but whatever.
Yeah. Thumbelina.
Dang.
What an ugly name. Let's keep a new name.
Mayflower. I'm sure because this story was originally from Denmark. I'm sure it translated a little differently, but English, you know, English. That was the story of Thumbelina, everyone.
Yay.
Yay. And now, it's time for Luca's story.
Master? Here, I'll send you a link.
I got it already, I think.
Not that one.
Oh, different.
That one's too long. If you want to get, like, you know, quests, I choose a different story.
Okay.
This was the second one I was thinking about.
Oh, I see. You know, your first one isn't all that long. It just seems long.
You sure?
Yeah, if you want to read it, it would be fine. It's probably as long as mine. It's really up to you, whichever one you prefer.
Let's see. Alright, let's read The first one,
The
then.
first one, okay. Okay, I've changed our scrolling text title. You may begin at your leisure.
I'm gonna, since my first screen has like the fireplace, won't be able to see chat, so go ahead and stop me if you want to.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. The Monkey's Paw by W. Jacobs. Be careful what you wish for, you may receive it. Part 1. Without the night was cold and wet, but in the small parlor of La Brune villa, blinds were drawn, and the fire burned brightly. Father and son were at chess. The former, who possessed ideas about the game involving radical changes, putting his king into such sharp and unnecessary perils that it even provoked comment from the white-haired old lady knitting passively by the fire. "Hark at the wind," said Mr. White, who had seen a fatal mistake after it was too late, was amiable, desirous of preventing his son from seeing it. "I'm listening," said the latter, grimly surveying the board as he stretched out his hand. "Check." "I should hardly think that he's coming tonight," said his father, with his hand poised over the board. "Mate," replied the son. "That's the worst of living so far out," bellowed Mr. White, with sudden and unlooked-for violence. "Of all the beastly, slushy, out-of-the-way places to live in, this is the worst. Past the bog and the road's a torrent, and I don't know what people are thinking about. I suppose because only 2 houses in the road are let, they think it doesn't matter." "Never mind, dear," said his wife soothingly. "Perhaps you'll win the next one." Mr. White looked up sharply, just in time to intercept a knowing glance between mother and son. The words died away on his lips, and he hid a guilty grin in his thin gray beard. "There he is," said Herbert White, as the gate banged too loudly and heavy footsteps came towards the door. The old man rose with hospitable haste, and opening the door, was heard condoling with the new arrival. The new arrival was also condolent with himself, so that Mrs. White said, "Tut, tut," and coughed gently as her husband entered the room, followed by the tall, burly man, beady of eye and rubicund of visage. "Sergeant Major Morris," he said, introducing him. The sergeant major took hands, and taking the proffered seat by the fire, watched contentedly as his host got out whiskey and tumblers and set a small copper kettle on the fire. At the third glass his eyes got brighter, and he began to talk, the little family circling regarding with eager interest this visitor from distant parts, and he squared his broad shoulders in the chair and spoke of wild scenes, of doughty deeds, of wars and plagues and strange peoples. 21 years of it," said Mr. White, nodding at his wife and son. "When he went away, he was a slip of a youth in the warehouse. Now look at him. He don't look to have taken much harm," said Mrs. White politely. "I'd like to go to India myself," said the old man, "just to look around a bit, you know." "Better where you are," said the sergeant major, shaking his head. He put down the empty glass and silently shook it again. "I should like to see those old temples, Fakirs and jugglers," said the old man. "What was that you started telling me the other day about a monkey's paw, or something, Morris?" "Nothing," said the soldier hastily. "Leastway, nothing worth hearing." "Monkey's paw?" said Mrs. White, curiosity. "Well, it's just a bit of what you might call magic, perhaps," said the sergeant major offhandedly. His 3 listeners leaned forward eagerly. The visitor absentmindedly put his empty glass to his lips, and then set it down again. His host filled it up for him again. To look at, said the sergeant major, fumbling in his pocket. It's just an order in little paw, dry to the mummy. He took something out of his pocket and proffered it. Miss White drew back with a grimace, but her son, taking it, examined curiously. And what is there special about it? Inquired Mr. White as he took it from his son, and having examined it, placed it upon the table. It had a spell put on it by an old Farquhar, said the sergeant major. A very holy man. He wanted to show that fate had ruled people's lives, and that those who interfered with it did so to their sorrow. He put a spell on it so that the 3 separate men could each have 3 wishes from it. His manners were... Yes?
No, Alice said sus, and I said yes, very sus. But...
Yes. Very sus indeed. His manners were so impressive that his hearers were conscious that their light laughter had jarred somewhat. Well, why don't you have 3, sir? Said Herbert White cleverly. The soldier regarded him with the way that middle age is wont to regard presumptuous youth. I have, he said, quietly, and his blotchy face whitened. And did you have the 3 wishes granted, Mrs. White? I did, said the sergeant major, and his glass tapped against his strong teeth. And has anybody else wished? Persisted the old lady. The first man had his 3 wishes, yes, was the reply. I don't know what the first 2 were, but the third was for death. That's how I got the paw. His tones were so grave that a hush fell upon the group. If you had all your 3 wishes, it's no good to know. Now then, Morris, said the old man at last, what do you keep it for? The soldier shook his head. Fancy, I suppose, he said slowly. I did have some idea of selling it, but I don't think I will. It has caused me enough mischief already. Besides, people won't buy it. They think it's a fairy tale. Some of them, or those who do think anything of it, want to try it first and pay me afterwards. If you could have another 3 wishes, said the old man, eyeing him keenly, would you have them? I don't know, said the other. I don't know. He took the paw, and dangling between his forefingers and thumb, suddenly threw it upon the fire. White, with a slight cry, stooped down and snatched it off. Better let it burn, said the soldier solemnly. If you don't want it, Morris, said the other, give it to me. I won't, said his friend doggedly. I threw it on the fire. If you keep it, don't blame me for what happens. Pitch it on the fire when it, like a sensible man. The other shook his head and examined his possessions closely. How do you do it? He inquired. Hold it up to your right hand and wish aloud, said the sergeant major, but I warn you of the consequences. Sounds like an Arabian Nights, said Mrs. White as she rose and began to set the supper. Don't you think you might wish for 4 pairs of hands for me? The husband drew a talisman from his pocket, and all 3 burst into laughter as the sergeant major, with a look of alarm on his face, caught him by the arm. If you must wish, he said gruffly, wish for something sensible. Mr. White dropped it back in his pocket, and placing chairs, motioned his friend to the table. In the business of supper, the talisman was partly forgotten, and afterwards the 3 sat listening to the enthralled fashion, and to the second installment of the soldier's adventures in India. If the tale about the monkey's paw is not more truthful than those he had been telling us, said Herbert, as the door closed behind their guest, just in time to catch the last train, we shan't make it much out of it. Did you give anything for it, father? Inquired Mrs. White, regarding her husband closely. A trifle, said he, coloring slightly. He didn't want it, but I made him take it, and he pressed me again to throw it away. Likely, said Herbert, with pretended horror. Why, we're going to be rich and famous and happy. Wish to be the emperor, father, to begin with. Then you can be henpecked. He darted around the table, pursued by maligned Mrs. White, armed with an antimacassar. Mr. White took the paw from his pocket and eyed it dubiously. I don't know what to wish for, and that's a fact, he said slowly. It seems to me I got all I want. If you only clear the house, you'll be quite happy, wouldn't you? Said Herbert, with his hand on his shoulder. Well, wish for 200 pounds. Then, thou just do it. His father, smiling shamefacedly on his own credibility, hailed the talisman as his son, with a solemn face, somewhat marred by a wink of his mother, sat down and struck a few impressive chords. I wish for 200 pounds, said the old man distinctly. A fine crash from the piano greeted his words, interrupted by the shattered cry from the old man. His wife and son ran towards him. It moved, he cried with a glance of disgust at the objects that lay on the floor. As I wished, it twisted in my hand like a snake. Well, I don't see the money, said his son as he picked up the place and placed it on the table. And I bet I never shall. It must have been your fancy, father. And his wife regarded him anxiously. He shook his head. Never mind, though. There's no harm done. But it gave me a shock all the same. They sat down again while the two men finished their pipes. Outside, the wind was higher than ever, and an old man started nervously at the sound of the door banging upstairs. A silence unusual and depressed settled on the three, which lasted until the old couple rose and retired to last for the rest of the night. I expect you to find a cash tied up in a big bag in the middle of the bed, said Herbert as he bade them good night, and something horrible squatting on top of the wardrobe watching you as you pocket your ill-gotten gains. He sat alone in the darkness, gazing at the dying fire, and seeing its faces in it. The last was so horrible and so simian that he gazed in amazement. It got so vivid that, with a little uneasy laugh, he felt on the table for a glass containing a little water thrown over. His hand had grasped the monkey's paw, and with a little shiver, he wiped his hand on his coat and went up to bed. Alright, that's it, everyone. Good story. Good story, everyone. Let me get some water.
Luca jests.
That would have been horrible. We don't even know the consequences
Yeah.
of the first wish. Okay. All right. Part 2, everyone.
Part two.
Also, I do apologize about some of these words. They I don't know what they mean.
It's fine. It's fine. You're doing good.
Part 2. In the brightness of the wintry sun, next morning, as it streamed over the breakfast table, he laughed at his fears. There was an air of prosaic wholesomeness about the room which it had lacked on the previous night, and a dirty, shriveled little pot was pitched on the sideboard with a carelessness which betokened no belief in his virtues. I suppose all old soldiers are the same, said Mrs. White. The idea of our listening to such nonsense. How could wishes be granted in these days? And if they could, how could 200 pounds hurt you, father? Might drop in his head from the sky, said frivolous Herbert. More silly things happen so naturally, said his father, that you might, if you wish, attribute it to coincidence. Well, don't break into the money before I come back, said Herbert as he rose from the table. I'm afraid it'll turn you into a various man, and we shall have to disown you. His mother laughed, and following him to the door, watched him down the road, and returning to the breakfast table, was very happy at the expense of his father's credulity. All of which did not prevent her from scurrying to the door to the postman's knock, nor preventing her from referring somewhat shortly to the retired sergeant major's bibulous habits, that which she found that the post brought a tailor's bill. Herbert, will you have some more of this funny remarks? I expect you when he comes home, she said as they sat at dinner. I dare say, said Mrs. White, pouring himself out some beer. But for all the thing moved in my hand, I swear to. You thought it did, said the old lady soothingly. I say it did, replied the other. There was no thought about it. I I just had... What's the matter? His wife made no reply. She was watching the mysterious movement of the man outside, who, peering into undecided fashion at the house, appeared to be trying to make up his mind to enter. In mental connection with the 200 pounds, she noticed that the stranger was well dressed and wore a silk hat with glossy newness. 3 times he paused at the gate, and then walked on again. The 4th time he stood with his hands upon it, and then with a sudden resolution flung it open and walked to the pass. Miss White at the same moment placed her hands behind her and hurriedly unfastened the strings of her apron, put the useful article of apparel beneath the cushion on her chair. She brought the stranger, who seemed ill at ease, into the room. He gazed at her furtively and listened in preoccupied fashion as the old lady apologized for the appearance of the room. In her husband's coat, a garment which he usually reserved for the garden, she then waited as patiently as her sex would permit for him to broach the business, but he was first strangely silent. "I was asked to call," he said at last, and stooped and picked up a piece of cotton from his trousers. "I'm come from Ma and Megan's." The old lady started. "Is anything the matter?" she asked breathlessly. "Has anything happened to Herbert? What is it? What is it?" Her husband interposed. There, mother," he said hastily. "Sit down and don't jump to conclusions. You're not brought bad news, I'm sure, sir," and eyed the other wistfully. "I'm sorry," began the visitor. "Is he hurt?" demanded the mother wildly. The visitor bowed in assent. "Badly hurt," he said quietly, "but he's not in any pain." "Oh, thank God," said the old woman, clasping her hands. "Thank God for that. Thank—" She broke off. As the sinister meaning of the assurance dawned on her, she saw the awful confirmation of her fears in the other's averted face. She caught her breath, and turning to her slowly witted husband, laid her trembling hand on his. There was a long silence. "He was caught in the machinery," said the visitor at the length of a low voice. "Caught in the machinery?" repeated Mr. White in a dazed fashion. "Yes." He sat staring at the window, and taking his wife's hand in between his own, pressed it as he had been wont to do at their old courting days nearly 40 years before. "He was the only one left to us," he said, turning gently to the visitor. "It is hard." The other coughed and rising, and walked slowly to the window. The firm wishes me to convey their sincere sympathy with you and your great loss," he said, without looking round. "I beg that you will understand I am only their servant and merely obeying orders." There was no reply. The old woman's face was white, her eyes staring, and her breath inaudible. On the husband's face was a look of such a friend the sergeant might have carried in his first action. "I was to say that Ma Meggins disclaim all responsibility," continued the other. "They admit no liability at all. But in consideration of your son's service, they wish to present you with a certain sum of compensation." Mr. White dropped his wife's hand, and rising to his feet, gazed with a look of horror to the visitor. His dry lips shaped the words. "How much?" 200 pounds, was the answer. Unconscious of his wife's shriek, the old man smiled faintly, put on his hands like a sightless man, and dropped a senseless heap to the floor. Oh no, everyone.
What the heck?
No, that's what happens when you be careful what you wish for. Pretty much from what the very beginning said. The end.
That's not the end.
All right. We still got 2 more wishes, everyone. What's gonna happen? All right. Yeah, Callie, it's a horror story.
It's a spoop, everyone. We're in the spoops.
We're spoops, everyone. We're spoops.
We're doing the spoops.
All right. I just took a look ahead. We're on the last part. All right. Part 3, everyone. In the huge now cemetery, some 2 miles distant, the old people buried their dead and came back to the house steeped in shadows and silence. It was all over so quickly that the first they could hardly realize it, and remained in a state of expectation as though of something else to happen. Something else which was to lighten this load, too heavy for old hearts to bear. But the days passed, and expectation gave way to resignation. The hopeless resignation of the old, sometimes miscalled apathy. Sometimes they hardly exchanged a word, and now they had nothing to talk about, and their days were long to weariness. It was about a week after the old man, waking suddenly in the night, stretched out his hand and found himself alone. The room was in darkness, and the sound of subdued weeping came from the window. He raised himself in bed and listened. "Come back," he said tenderly. "You will be cold." "It is colder from my son," said the old woman, and wept afresh. The sound of her sobs died away on his ears. The bed was warm, and his eyes heavy with sleep. He dozed fitfully, and then slept until a sudden wild cry from his wife awoke him with a start. "The paw!" she cried wildly. "The monkey's paw!" He started up in alarm. Where? Where is it? What's the matter?"
1 second.
She came.
1 second. Hello, Tora. Welcome to story time. Luca is reading a spoopy story. We hope you enjoy.
That's right.
You ate a burger. Callie is full and had a burger.
He should be full. He had like a big workout, so he should have got like a big meal to eat to compensate.
Oh, Callie's doing shoutouts.
Oh, well, thank you for having the energy to do that, Callie. Much appreciated. But you got cute for that, because, you know.
Yep. Kyoni and Luca! Spooky? Yeah, it's called the monkey's paw. So it's kind of, as far as we understand, it's a cursed object, but it grants wishes with a cost.
Yeah, just like my ramen bowl.
Yeah. One of Kyo's hands is busy holding a book. Ah, man!
Oh, that's true. It would be hard for Kyo to do shoutouts. Good call, Callie. Good call.
Gotta do it one-handed. Okay, you can continue. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Let me see. Okay. "The paw!" she cried wildly. "The monkey's paw!" He started up in alarm. Where? Where is it? What's the matter?" She came stumbling across the room towards him. "I want it," she said quietly. "You not destroyed it." "It's in the parlor, on the bracket," he replied marveling. "Why?" She cried and laughed together, and bending over, kissed the cheek. "I only just thought of it," she said hysterically. "Why didn't I think of it before? Why didn't you think of it?" "Think of what?" he questioned. "The other 2 wishes," she replied rapidly. "We only had 1. Was that not enough?" he demanded fiercely. "No," she cried triumphantly. "We'll have 1 more. Go down and get it quickly, and wish our boy alive again." The man sat in bed and flung the bedclothes from his quaking limbs. "Good God! You are mad!" he cried aghast. "Get it?" she panted. "Get it quickly and wish! Oh, my boy, my boy!"
Oh. That's no good. That's not a good wish. Okay.
I don't even know how he died in the first place.
You don't know how he died?
They said machine. They didn't go very specific.
He was
like, just said
he was literally just to say it nicely. Back in the day, a lot of people worked in factories and things like that, and there wasn't necessarily like protections put in place for people working machinery. So an accident happened.
You're right. After this, we should watch some YouTube videos on
machinery. No.
Just so I can get some visualization.
No visualization. No.
The only visualization I know is like in that X-Men movie where like Magneto was working in that one factory. Was it like that?
I mean, I guess so. Any accidents that happen in a factory typically are like that.
Okay. I'll assume it's like that. Magneto came in and killed everyone. Dad.
Not exactly, but okay.
Okay. Her husband struck a match and lit the candle. Get back to bed, he said unsteadily. You don't know what you are saying. You had the first wish granted, said the old woman feverishly. Why not the second? A coincidence, stammered the old man. Go get it and wish, cried his wife, quivering with excitement. The old man turned and regarded her, and his voice shook. He has been dead 10 days, and besides, I will not tell you else, but I can only recognize him by his clothing. If he was too terrible for you to see then, how now? Oh, okay. Makes sense. Bring him back, cried the old woman, and dragged him towards the door. Do you think I fear the child I have nursed? He went down the darkness and felt his way to the parlor, and then to the mantelpiece. The talisman was in place, and with a horrible fear of his spoken wish might bring his mutilated son before him, ere he could escape only the room seated about him. And he caught his breath, and he found that he had lost the direction of the door. His brow cold with sweat. He felt his way around the table and groped along the wall until he himself found in the small patches with a wholesomeness thing in his hand. Even his wife's face seemed changed as he entered the room. It was white and expectant, and his fears seemed to have unnatural look upon it. He was afraid of her. Wish! She cried in a strong voice. It is the foolish and wicked, he faltered. Wish! Repeated his wife. He raised his hand. I wish my son alive again.
No!
Oh no, what's gonna happen next?
Zombie son.
The talisman talisman fell to the floor and regarded it fearfully. Then he sank trembling to chair as the old woman, with burning eyes, walked to the window and raised the blind. He sat until he was chilled with the cold, glancing occasionally to the figure of the old woman peering through the window. The candle end, which had burned below the rim, and the china candlestick was throwing pulsating shadows on the ceiling and walls until, with a flickering large, then at rest, it expired. The old man, with an unspeakable sense of relief at the failure of the talisman, crept back to his bed. And a minute afterwards, the old woman came silently in empathy beside him. Neither spoke, but suddenly sat listening to the ticking of the clock. A stair creaked, and a squeaky mouse scurried noisily through the wall. The darkness was oppressive, and after lying for some time, screwing up his courage, he took the box of matches, and striking one, went downstairs for a candle. At the foot of the stairs, the match went out, and he paused to strike another. At the same moment, a knock came so quiet and stealthy that it was scarcely audible sounded on the front door. The matches fell from his hand and spilled in the passage. He stood motionless, his breath suspended until the knock was repeated. Then he turned and fled swiftly back to his room and closed the door behind him. A third knock sounded through the house. What's that? Cried the old woman, staring up. A rat, said the old man in shaking tones. A rat. Passed me on the stairs.
Uh-oh.
His wife sat up in bed listening. A loud knock resounded through the house. It's Herbert! She ran to the door, but her husband was before her, and catching her by the arm, held her tightly. What are you going to do? He whispered hoarsely. It's my boy! It's Herbert! She cried, struggling menacingly. I forgot it was 2 miles away. What are you holding me for? Let go. I must open the door. For God's sakes, don't let it in, cried the old man, trembling. You're afraid of your own son? She cried, struggling. Let me go. I'm coming. Herbert, I'm coming. There was another knock, and another. The old woman, with a sudden wrench, broke free and ran from the room. Her husband followed to the landing and called after her, appealing as she hurried downstairs. Hear the chain rattle back and the bolt drawn slowly and stiflingly from the socket. The old woman's voice strained and panting. The bolt! She cried loudly. Come down, I can't reach it. But her husband was on his hands and knees, groping wildly on the floor in search of the paw. If only he could find it before the thing outside got in. A perfect fusilage of knocks reverbered through the house, and he heard scrapping the chair as his wife put it down in the passage against the door. He heard the creaking of the bolt as it came slowly back. At the same moment, he found the monkey's paw and frantically breathed his third and last wish. The knocking ceased. Suddenly, although the echoes of it still in the house, he heard the chair drawn back and the door opened. A cold wind rushed up the staircase, and a long, loud wail of disappointment and misery from his wife gave him the courage to run down to her side, and then to the gate beyond. The street lamp flickered opposite shone on the quiet, deserted road.
I can assume we know what his last wish was.
Yes. Death.
Callie, no! No! It's the Callie. It's the Yuki, my boy! Alice. So that, everyone, was the monkey's paw. And the moral of the story, don't wish on cursed things.
Yeah, don't be careful what you wish for. Even 200 pounds is still something can still curse you. Alright, well, we're now in the part of the segment where we can do story requests then. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
We actually have plenty of time.
Save. There's no need to save. What are we saving? Be careful everyone. Oh, spooky. Yeah. Yes. The silo, if you have a request. She comes in with the rice. Nom nom nom.
Nom 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 nom.
Or if anyone else has a request.
That's right. Please remember, we can only do public reads. Mouse the cookie.
Mouse with a cookie. Is that public domain? Let me check.
I mean, that's like a. I feel like that might be the meme. What's happening?
Oh. If you give a mouse a cookie. I see, I see.
Here, Kia. I mean, I'm pretty sure you found it, but here's the thing too. But otherwise, we could. I don't think it's like old, but we could always change certain words and make it something else.
That's true. Let me see if we can. I'm pretty sure we could probably read. Oh, there's a free adaptation of this story. I found it. The original. Nice. So there was the storybook, and then there was the original.
Let's read the original then.
Reading the original. That you can find in a PDF. For preschool language arts students. That's cute. Okay, and then we will read Silos. This will be relatively short.
Go ahead then.
Cute. It's even got clip art, everybody. Like, funny. Okay.
Oh, then post the link for everyone to follow. If they want to check it out.
Oh, that's true. You can see this if you want. This is where I found it.
I want to follow along. I want to see the clip art. Oh wait, that's the one I gave you.
Yeah, this is the one I found.
Oh, okay.
Why do you think, did you not be judged? Never. If you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to ask for a glass of milk. When you give him the milk, he'll probably ask you for a straw. When he's finished, he'll ask for a napkin. Then he will want to look in a mirror to make sure he doesn't have a milk mustache. When he looks into the mirror, he might notice his hair needs a trim, so he'll probably ask for a pair of nail scissors. When he's finished giving himself a trim, he'll want a broom to sweep it up. He'll start sweeping. He might get carried away and sweep every room in the house. He may even end up washing the floors as well. When he's done, he'll probably want to take a nap. You will have to fix a little bed for him with a blanket and a pillow. He'll crawl in, make himself comfortable, and flip the pillow a few times. He'll probably ask you to read him a story. Well, he'll read him one from one of your books, and he'll ask to see the pictures. When he looks at the pictures, he'll get so excited, he'll want to draw one of his own. He'll ask for paper and crayons. He'll draw a picture, and when the picture is finished, he'll want to sign his name with a pen. And he'll want to hang his picture on your refrigerator, which means he'll need some Scotch tape. He'll hang up his drawing and stand back to look at it. Looking at the refrigerator will remind him that he's thirsty, so he'll ask for a glass of milk. And chances are, if he asks for a glass of milk, he's going to want a cookie to go with it. The end.
Very cute.
That was very cute.
You're right, Kyo. Let's go ahead and let's tell the story again, only from a Fuwa's point of view. We can try.
I don't.
Try?
Let me think. No, I would have to think of some creative things, but we could probably do it like. I feel like we should write one.
Okay.
Oh, there's Toe. Hello, Toe. Are you gonna be generous today?
What do you mean generous? Toe knows he has no power over story time.
Okay, next one. Thank you for the wonderful suggestion. Hurrah! Good job, good job.
This story.
Little Toe. Little
Here,
Toe.
I'll give my sticky note so that we can
I gave up.
make one.
Okay, the next one is a poem suggested by Silo called Gardener 85. Who are you, reader, reading my poems 100 years hence? I cannot send you one single flower from this wealth of the spring, one single streak of gold from yonder clouds. Open your doors and look abroad. From your blossoming garden, gather fragrant memories of the vanished flowers of 100 years before. In the joy of your heart, may you feel the living joy that sang one spring morning, sending its glad voice across 100 years. Wow, that was pretty, like, profound. Like, to imagine, say, someone who wrote this, right? And be like, I have no idea if anyone is going to read this 100 years later, but if you do, and it's like, to imagine somebody who wrote something thinking that maybe somebody 100 years later will read it. Ooh, chills. Thank you for reading. No problem. That was fun. Liked it. It was a change of pace storybook.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone else have any story time? Any stories?
Yes. Any suggestions?
If not, we can try find another one.
Mm-mm.
Hmm. You know,
fact-
I have heard that Silo has never watched the Aladdin movies before, and there is an Aladdin story. Let me just check it out to see how long it is though.
Roma was the first non-European to win the literal. Ooh. Wow. I can see why. I love Tori's suggestions. They're so cute.
Oh, that really is long. Okay, never mind.
What do you mean? Because you're just like. Because I looked up what you said, and it's like. It's a little. It's like a cute little. It's like a story about a mouse. Well, not adventures. Funny story. One time, one of my philosophy professors went, "Yes, I'm related to that." Half the class, what? Other half of the class, what? I haven't read Samuel I'll tell you since I was a small white tiger cub. Yes, but stories. It's just so cute. Ooh, okay, let's find one. It's like, say, let's see.
So here is the other one. It is very long. Probably something we should maybe save, but here, look.
Oh, yes. We should definitely have that as one session, maybe see. Because isn't it pretty long?
It is pretty long, and I did see like a shorter version,
Mm-hmm.
but I kind of don't want to read like doubles. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay. Oh, yeah, this one is pretty long. Relatively long. Let's save this for the next one, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, this is... Ooh, it's a long one. I like it, though. I like long stories. Don't get me wrong. Okay, I found one.
Did Tora, I mean Yuki, say anything about Rumpelstiltskin? Or was that? Did I misread that?
No, no, no. It's a
Hey.
different... It's a different story. I found one.
Oh, okay. We read the Ocarina of Time manual.
Oh my gosh, no.
How about just play the game?
Ah, that's me. That's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's do... If you want more random poetry, I have a lot of random poetry. We could totally read poetry. Totally, totally. Yes, yes. Alright. So I found one of Geronimo Stilton, all because of a cup of coffee. Okay. All because of a cup of coffee. A cup of coffee? What's a cup of coffee got to do with it? Everything. But let me explain. See, that morning I was having breakfast at the Tail Trap Diner. They have the best hot cheese buns. But stay away from the Spanish omelet. It's so spicy, it'll curl your whiskers. Anyway, I was happily munching away when some mouse spilled coffee on me. My jacket was soaked. I was fuming. I whirled around, ready to squeak instead. My jaw hit the ground. A female mouse stood in front of me. No, she wasn't just any mouse. She was the most beautiful mouse in the world. She stared at her empty cup. Then she stared at my jacket. She whispered in a sweet voice,
So sorry.
I tried to speak, but it felt like my tongue was tied in a knot. What do you say to such a stunning rodent? She was so charming and so sophisticated. She could have been on the cover of Glamour Mouse. My Stilton is Geronimo Stilton, my name is... I stammered. I tried to shake her paw, but I slipped on the spilled coffee. I crashed into a table of rats having breakfast. I landed, snapped down on a plate of waffles and whipped cream. Do you mind? Sniffed the rats. This is a business breakfast. I staggered off, but I couldn't see. I had whipped cream in my eyes. I bumped into another table. This time, 2 bottles of Tabasco sauce got stuck up in my nostrils. Cheese niblets! I cried, stumbling away. Next thing I knew, my tail was stuck in a fan. Ow! I shrieked. Then I hit a wall. A big, furry wall. Watch it, fur brain, the wall growled. Uh-oh, that wasn't a wall. That was Bert Bruiser Mouse. He was the biggest and meanest rodent on the Mouse Island. I tried to run, but I was frozen with fear. Suddenly, Bert lifted me up and tossed me out the door. I landed on the trolley tracks. I tried to get up, but my tail was stuck in the rails. Just then, I heard the train whistle. Rotten rat's teeth! A trolley was headed right for me. Help! I squeaked at the top of my lungs. The owner of the Forever Green Garden Center ran toward me. Don't panic, Mr. Stilton, he shouted. I'll save you! I'll just chop your tail off with my hedge clippers. He waved the sharp scissors in the air. Chop, chop! Paws off my tail, I shrieked. I'd rather run over by the trolley. And that's exactly what happened.
What the heck?
Wait. Luckily, I survived. So did my tail. After the trolley hit, it yanked my tail from the rails. Then I stumbled to my paws. I had a huge grin on my face. I felt so happy, so carefree, so alive. Oh yes, I was happy to be alive. And I was happy for another reason too. I had fallen in love. Getting knocked in the head by that trolley had made me realize something. The beautiful mouse at the diner was the one for me. I just knew she was my soul mouse. Now, all I had to do was tell her. I reached the office in a daze. Oops, I forgot to tell you. I run a daily newspaper called the Rodents Gazette. As soon as I walked into the editorial room, my sister Thea attacked me. Geronimo, where have you been? She shrieked. The meeting has already started. I just grinned ear to ear. Meeting? What meeting? I murmured absentmindedly. My sister stared at me. What's with the bottles in your nose? What happened to your jacket? You look like you got run over by a trolley, she declared. I smiled. Yes, it was a trolley. It ran right over me, I giggled. I was still dreaming about the mouse from the diner. Such gorgeous fur, I mumbled, and that smile could light up the darkest mouse hole. My sister stamped her paw. Then she grabbed me by the whiskers. Hello in there? Anyone home? She shouted in my ear. What are you talking about? You're not making any sense. Did you drink too much coffee this morning? I blinked. That's right. Coffee. I thought that's how it all began. The cup of coffee. A silly grin spread over my face. Just thinking about the mouse you love can make you do that. Meanwhile, Thea was staring at me like I was some kind of rodent science experiment. Suddenly she groaned. Did you fall in love? She squeaked.
Is that why you're acting so strange? I sighed happily. Love, isn't it wonderful?
I beamed. Then I pulled a wad of bills out of my pocket. I began counting them. As if they were petals on a flower. She loves me. She loves me not. She loves me. She loves me not, I sang. Thea rolled her eyes in disgust.
You'd better get your act together, big brother, she advised. In case you've forgotten, we are the publisher of the newspaper. There's a ton of work to be done.
I twirled my tail, lost in thought. Work, I thought, dreamily. I wonder what kind of work the most beautiful mouse in the world does. She looks so smart, so polished. Maybe she was the head of her own advertising agency. Or perhaps she was an international supermodel. I was so busy thinking about my soul mouse that I barely heard the knock on my door. My secretary, Mausoleum McMouser, oh my gosh, came rushing in. She was pushing in an enormous dictionary on wheels.
Mr. Stilton, you've got a call. The printer just found 5 misspelled words in tomorrow's edition, she squeaked.
I nodded at Mausolea. Yes, call the printer. Call the radio station. Call every mouse in the city, I announced gleefully. I want everyone to know I'm an LOVE. Marcella gave me a strange look. Then she took the dictionary and scurried out of the office. Crazy, lovesick mouse, I heard her mumble before she left. Just then, I heard music blasting in the hallway. I left my desk to see what was going on. It looked like a wild mouse party. Mice were laughing and hanging out of the water cooler. 2 mice danced by me, doing the tango. Another mouse was making paper airplanes. No one was doing any work. Normally, I would be upset. I would tell everyone to get back to their desks. But today, I didn't care. I was too happy. I was too excited. I was in love with a capital L. Thea shook her head. When the boss is away, the mice will play, she snorted. 2 minutes later, an elegant female mouse tapped me on the shoulder. She was dressed in a very expensive-looking cat fur jacket and matching skirt. Who are you? What do you want? I mumbled distractedly. I was busy doodling tiny hearts in my notebook. Who am I? Don't you recognize me? I'm Creamy Cheddar, your editor-in-chief. I've been working for you for the past 20 years, she squeaked, sounding annoyed. I looked up at her. Ah, yes. You do sort of look familiar, I nodded. I glanced at her outfit. She wears expensive clothes, too, I murmured, lost in thought. Bet she looks fabulous mouse in cat fur. Oh my god, that's horrible. By now, the whole office was staring at me. I heard them whispering among themselves, buzz, buzz. He's lost it, someone mumbled. Talk about dizzy with love, someone else commented. Suddenly, I noticed a picture on the front page of the paper. That's her! That's her! I shouted. I was so excited. I could hardly breathe. I read the caption under the picture. The young Countess Stephanie von Sugarfur. Oh my god. Daughter of the renowned Count Chester Cheesenip arrived in town yesterday. The Countess, who is staying at the Grand Cheddar Hotel, will be a guest at the Embassy Ball this coming Saturday. I drew hearts around the picture. I was grinning from ear to ear. Stephanie! Ah, Stephanie, I murmured. My sister shook her head. Geronimo, you're hopeless, she smirked. Absolutely hopeless. I left work and ran to the florist. I had to order flowers for Stephanie. Lots of flowers. And not just any flowers. Oh no. A mouse as breathtaking as the Countess deserved only the best. I settled on 5 dozen long-stemmed red roses. The roses were perfect. Now I just had to write something on the card. Mousy regards, I tried. No, maybe something more personal. I tore up the card. Hugs and kisses, I wrote next. No, that isn't right either. Rodently yours, I scribbled. Seemed too formal. Comments so far, Luca?
This guy's great. I mean, he's like way head over heels. But the one thing I noticed is like, did I hear the word ambassador? About some sort of ambassador ball?
Well, she's a countess. So there's like a ball, and he wants to go to the ball to meet her.
I don't even know this guy's status. Okay, you know what? I assume that
he writes a newspaper. That's it. I stared into
All right.
space, and then I noticed the florist staring back at me. Well, he wasn't just staring, he was shooting me dirty looks.
Have you finished yet? You're using up all my cards, he squeaked. Why don't you just write your name?
My name? I asked in a daze.
Yes, your signature? I take it you know your own name.
He burst out impatiently, then he closed his eyes.
I need a vacation, he mumbled. These lovesick mice are such nitwits.
This guy doesn't even know her personality. Nope. Normally, I would mind if some mouse called me a nitwit, but today I didn't care. So what if I was acting like a nitwit? Stephanie von Sugarfur, worth it. Full of excitement, I signed the card. Then I stuck it under the silk bow, tying up the gigantic bunch of ribbons. I spent the whole evening waiting for the phone to ring. I was hoping the Countess would call to thank me for the flowers. The only thing that rang was my toaster oven's timer. I was so surprised. Why didn't she call me? Every now and then, I lifted the receiver to make sure the phone was working. The next day... What? Go ahead.
Phone number?
I don't know! I don't know if he actually wrote his phone number or not.
I don't think so.
Every now and then, I lifted the receiver to make sure the phone was working. The next day, I raced to the candy store to buy some cheese chews. Have you ever had a cheese chew? They're the best cheese-flavored chocolates. In all New Mouse City, I decided on 10-pound super deluxe box. I was paying. My cousin Trap strode into the store. He was a mouse too, but you could never call him quiet. In fact, he was one of the loudest rodents I know. It's amazing we're related. Now he stuck a paw in my new box of chocolates.
Who are these for?
He said, swallowing a Swiss caramel chocolate in one gulp. No, I yelled. They're not for you. But it was too late. He had already scarfed down half the box. Tears sprang to my eyes. My precious gift was ruined. I couldn't send the Countess a half-eaten box of chocolates, but they were expensive cheesy chews. How could you? I scolded Trap. That was a present. Exactly. Keone's voice makes the story 1,000 times better. I wish Keone read books for me growing up. Oh, I'm reading them for you now. My cousin barely blinked.
No problemo, Cousin Kins, he squeaked. It's my birthday next month. I'll just pretend this is a little gift from you to me.
I sighed. Please give me another sealed box, I asked the sales mouse. Trap shook my paw.
Thanks, Jerry Berry.
He giggled, tossing more chocolates in his mouth.
By the way, Thea tells me you got a new sweetheart. Want some advice?
I rolled my eyes. The last mouse I take advice from is my cousin.
Listen to me, Cousinkins,
Trap advised.
Lady Mice like a challenge. You gotta play it cool. Don't let her know you're interested.
Alright. Sales mouse. Silo.
Kyoni, tora! Yo 동생, 사랑해요.
Once again, I spent the night waiting for the telephone to ring. The beautiful Countess did not call. Then I had a horrible thought. What if she's allergic to roses? What if chocolates make her fur itch? My heart sank. I had to do something. I decided I would go to her.
Oh my god.
I was too embarrassed to wait in the lobby, so I hid behind the bushes.
Oh, Jesus.
Suddenly, someone laid a paw on my shoulder. Holy cheese! I shrieked. But it was only my favorite nephew, Benjamin. Uncle Geronimo, what are you doing here? He squeaked. Right then, I saw her come out. Shh, little mousey, I murmured to Benjamin. I stood up, trying to look casual. The Countess seemed to look right through me. Then she dropped something. It was a small lace pocketkerchief. I ran to pick it up. Excuse me, I'm the mouse from the miner. I mean the mouse from the diner, I stammered. I'm the one who sent you the red roses. Red noses. I mean roses. The one who sent you the candy. It's me, Gilton. I know I was making no sense, but I couldn't believe I was speaking with her again. After all, who knew? She could be my one true love. My best friend forever. Yes, she could be the future Mrs. Geronimo Stilton. Countess opened her eyes wide and gazed at me. Oh, she breathed. Lucas' reaction is priceless. Yes, I gave her the handkerchief. Then I tried to bow. Big mistake. I tripped and tumbled back into the rose bush. When I managed to stand up, roses were sticking out of my nose. I staggered off the road. That's when I heard the roar of an engine. I looked at just in time to see a huge cream cheese truck headed right for me. Help! I shrieked. The truck stopped within inches of my snout. Seconds later, an expensive sports car screeched to a halt in front of the hotel. A polished-looking mouse leapt out. He ran up to the Countess and kissed her paw. My darling Stephanie, he crooned. They're all waiting for you at the ball. Then the two of them disappeared into the night. The following morning, I dragged myself to the office. I was so depressed. The Countess wasn't interested in me. She already had Mr. Flashy Sports Car Mouse. She probably laughed at my silly roses and threw my chocolates in the trash. Oh, how could I have been so foolish? I doodled a string of broken hearts in my notebook. Then I began to sob loudly. Thea marched into my office. She looked at my drawings and shook her head. Excuse me, I sneezed. She broke your heart, didn't she? Thea demanded to know. If you ask me, you should have played it cool. I sobbed louder. Minutes later, Trap stuck his head into the room.
What's with the waterwork, Cuzzikins?
He asked. Thea pointed to the broken hearts. Trap rolled his eyes.
I told you to play it cool,
he sneered. There's a counter? Yes, for my sneezes. Because for some reason I always seem to sneeze on stream. Sneeze. Sneeze, sneeze. Just then, a small rodent scurried through the door. It was my nephew Benjamin. He stared at the hearts in my notebook.
Uncle, maybe you should have played it cool, he squeaked.
I moaned. Just thinking about the Countess made me choke. How could I live without my soul mouse? My inspiration, my heart. I put my snout between my paws and cried like a rat stuck in a glue trap on Christmas Eve. That night, I slunk home. I dropped into my paw chair in front of the television. I usually don't watch a lot of TV, but I was feeling so sad to do anything else. I set a box of tissues out next to me. I knew I would need them. I just couldn't stop crying. It was like I had sprung on a leak. Oh, why did I have to fall in love with that mouse? Lost in my own thoughts. I barely heard the doorbell ring. Who is it? I mumbled. Why wasn't I allowed to suffer in peace? Whoever it was didn't give up. I shuffled toward the door and opened it. Hey there, big brother, squeaked Thea. Trap and Benjamin were by her side. I'm not really up for company, I said with a sigh. I tried to close the door, but my cousin pushed his way inside.
Listen, Cuzzikins, we're here to cheer you up, he declared,
grinning.
After all, that's what relatives are for, isn't it?
He marched over to my mega-huge fridge.
Got any cheddar balls? He asked. The old tummies are rumbling.
I jumped to my paws. My cousin had an endless appetite. He would eat me out of house and hole if I didn't stop him. Luckily, Thea beat me to it.
No time for food,
she told Trap, yanking him away by the tail.
We're here to cheer up Geronimo.
It looks like he's been eaten by a cat. She stuck a magazine under my snout.
Read this,
she instructed. World's 8th wonder, still a mystery, the headline declared. The article said an ancient report had been found in New Mouse City's library. The report was hidden by the famous explorer Richard Rattingbone. Rattingbone had journeyed to Butterfly Island in search of the legendary Valley of the zzZZ. Cheez-Its? It kind of looks like cassettes, but it's like Cheezettes. Something like that. The valley is said to be the 8th wonder of the world. Unfortunately, Rattingbone was not able to find it. Years later, explorers continued to search for the valley's secret entrance. I dropped the paper, shuffled back to my paw chair, and sat down. So why are you showing me this? I asked wearily. My cousin's grin spread from ear to ear.
Don't you get it, your meester? He squeaked. We'll go in search of this cheesy valley place, and then we'll become rich and famous.
I rolled my eyes. First of all, Trap, it's the Valley of the Cheez-Its, I said. And second of all, I'm not up for a trip right now. I wouldn't be any fun at all, I sighed heavily. Then I stared blankly at the television screen. On it, 2 mice were holding paws and skipping off into the sunset. The female mouse looked just like the Countess. I started crying like a sprinkler on high speed. My family took the hint. Disappointed, they let themselves out. Poor guy.
Yeah, he should have played it cool.
Should have played it cool. The next day, Thea marched into my office.
Listen up, miserable mousie, she announced. I've got the answer to all your problems.
I looked up from my desk. My sister was grinning at me like she had just swallowed 10 grilled cheese sandwiches. Uh-oh, I thought. That look could only mean one thing. Thea had some crazy and mysterious scheme up her sleeve. My sister loves adventure. She probably wanted to take me rock climbing, or even worse, skydiving. Before I could squeak, she grabbed me by the paw. Come on, sad sack, she cried, dragging me out of the office. A few minutes later, I found myself sitting on the back of Thea's motorcycle. Did I mention my sitter is a bit of a daredevil? She loves fast bikes, fast cars, fast boats. In fact, the only thing she doesn't like fast is her food. Those McRat burgers can be a little hard on the rodent stomach. Now I shut my eyes tight as we roared down the road. Hold on tight, Thea shrieked happily. The wind whipped by us. When we stopped, I stared at my own fur. It was a tangled mess. It would take me weeks to come through it. Oh, how I hate motorcycles. Just then, I sniffed the air. I looked around. We were parked in a dark and smelly alley. Even worse, skydiving. Not gonna lie, I agree with that. I don't know how I feel about skydiving. I feel like I would try it. My sister pushed me off the bike and onto a small doorway.
Someone is waiting for you on the 10th floor,
she told me.
You'll have to take the stairs. There's no elevator. I'll wait down here with the bike.
What could I do? I had to go. My sister was only trying to help. Maybe I would meet a friendly psychiatrist on the 10th floor. Or a beautiful female mouse. That got me thinking about the Countess. Sobbing, I began to climb. I reached the 10th floor out of breath. My heart was beating wildly in my chest. The sign on the door in front of me read, Madam Love Doctor. Suddenly, it all became clear. My sister was sending me to a fortune teller. Yes, some wacky mouse who claims to tell the future. I groaned. I did not have time for this. Mumbo jumbo. I had my whole day planned out. First, I would feel sorry for myself. Then I would cry me a river of tears. Then I would float home and cry some more. Yes, I had an important schedule to keep. I was about to leave when the door opened with a creak. I caught sight of a dusty room. It smelled like incense and burning candles.
Come in, said a feeble voice. I've been waiting for you.
How strange, I thought. I could have sworn I had heard the voice before. But before I could figure it out, the voice continued. Come in, Mr. Stilton, it murmured, and bring your broken little heart with you. I froze. How did she know my name? And how did she know about the Countess? In the corner of the room, I saw a strange figure. She was wearing a long, flowing dress. Her head was covered by a faded handkerchief. The room was so dark, I couldn't make out her face. The fortune teller pushed me into a chair, and then she uncovered a crystal ball. I almost giggled. Maybe next she would try to read the lines on my paw. It was also very silly. I wanted to leave, but right then the fortune teller began to whisper,
I see roses.
A whole van of roses, she murmured, and chocolates. Gourmet cheese-flavored chocolates. Yum, yum. My jaw hit the ground. My blood ran cold. My fur stood up in shock. Did this rodent really have magical powers? The fortune teller sniggered with delight. I guess she liked surprising her clients.
Roses aren't enough. Neither are chocolates. she went on. You need much more to win over this mouse, Germeister.
I blinked. Germeister? I remembered. How very strange. Why did this rodent seem so familiar to me? She coughed, then continued.
Are you willing to do anything to make your true love fall at your paws? She asked.
Hope made my heart beat faster. I nodded. Yes. So hard that my eyes rattled in my fur. I leaned closer. The fortune teller told me what I needed to do. Something extraordinary. Something no mouse had ever done before. Something so amazing it would make me famous. The Stephanie von Sugarfur would be sure to notice me. I scratched my head. Something amazing? I stammered. But I'm just an average mouse. I run a newspaper. I'm not an explorer. Ew, I sneezed again. Mouse. Yeah. Another sneeze. Oh no!
But I see that some very clever rodents want you to go on a trip with them. You must go. It will be an amazing success, she predicted.
I chewed my whiskers. I was planning on sulking in front of the TV set all weekend. Still, my family would be so happy if I joined them on their trip. Racking up the counter today? I know! My nose is kind of itchy on one side.
I don't know, I hope you don't have hay fever.
Maybe. There might be just something that's bothering my nose.
Do you really think it'll work? I asked.
Of course, you cheese brain, she shrieked.
Madam Love Doctor knows all. Now go home, pack your suitcase, and be off.
She then held out her fleshy paw. By the way, that will be $200. I nearly fell off my chair. $200? What a business. Maybe I should buy my own crystal ball. I could be rich. As if in a dream, I took out my wallet quicker than a cat with a ball of yarn. She snatched up the cash. I headed out the door.
And don't forget to play it cool.
The fortune teller called after me. I stopped. Now, where had I heard those words recently? Before I could remember, a paw grabbed my shoulder. It was Thea. How did it go? She asked. I told her what the fortune teller had said about the roses, about the chocolates, and about the amazing trip. That would make me famous. So I guess I'll go with you, I finished. For some reason, Thea didn't look too surprised. We roared off on her bike.
Hang on to your whiskers,
my sister cried. I was hanging on more than ever. I was hanging on for dear life. Minutes later, we reached the airport. Thea had refused to stop at my place for my suitcase. She was afraid I would change my mind. Plus, she said I take too long packing. I don't know why. Don't all rodents sort their clothes by color, size, and fabric? Benjamin was already waiting for us at the airport. Trap showed up a few minutes later. Don't leave without me! He panted out of breath. Thea was already giving instructions to the mechanics. Did I tell you my sister flies her very own plane? A pink one with flowers. She's totally into it. She can do loops. She can do spins. She can even fly upside down. Last year, she won Mouse Island's Fearless Furs flight competition. It was amazing to watch. But I was happy when she landed in one piece. As for me, I'm afraid to fly. Mice look like tiny ants when you're up in the sky. My teeth began to chatter just thinking about taking off. Maybe we should wait until tomorrow, I stammered, looking nervously at Thea's plane. My sister rolled her eyes.
Get over it, Cherryberry, she scolded.
You're such a scaredy mouse. She turned to greet all of her friends.
Hey there, Squeaks. How's it going, Sniffer? She called.
The male rodent stopped and stared when Thea went by. I wish I had her luck when it came to love. My sister has more admirers than a mouse who just won the lottery. Just then, a furry rodent wearing a parachuting outfit approached Thea. Would you like to, go for, a jump together? He stammered, blushing. My sister giggled and fluttered her eyelashes. Sounds fabulous, she murmured sweetly.
But I can't today.
The parachutist shot me a dirty look. I guess he thought I was Thea's date for the day. I felt sorry for him. I knew exactly how he felt. Rejected with a capital R. Thea took that moment to pass on some advice. Actually, it was the same old advice I'd been listening to for days.
See,
She whispered.
you have to play it cool. Then you'll be irresistible.
I was thinking about what Sia had said when a paw stroked my shoulder.
Geronimo, a high-pitched voice crooned. It's me, Stephanie von Sugarfur.
My heart beat wildly. So much for playing it cool. I would ask her out to dinner. I would ask her to the movies. I would marry her. Excited, I turned around, but instead of seeing Stephanie's sweet snout, I was staring right at my cousin Trap. He threw his arms around me and began to kiss the air.
Hee. My annoying cousin snickered. Jerry Berry, you're too easy to fool. What a total nincompoop.
Oh, that's so mean.
Eh.
Not gonna lie, I thought the guy who approached wasn't approaching the sister. Thank you, Jaju.
Thank you for the blankie.
Thank you for the pets.
I soon go to sleep. That's okay if you go to sleep. Thank you for stopping by, though. Or lurking. Either one. Usually you lurk.
Yes.
It made logical sense to me. I climbed into the plane with shaky paws. I checked my seatbelt buckle 10 times. I located the nearest exit. I made sure there was an inflatable life vest under my seat. Up, up, and away! Thea squeaked as the plane's wheels left the ground. My claws dug into the seat. I really do hate flying. Maybe even more than I hate pickled blue cheese sandwiches. I mean, why would you ruin a delicious cheese with pickle juice? Trap's voice broke into my thoughts.
Dia, how long have you been flying? He smirked. 2 days? A week? It doesn't look to me like you can do any tricks.
Thea turned to glare at my cousin. How dare you? She shrieked. Minutes later, the plane soared straight into the sky and then dove down in a loop. I covered my eyes with my paws. Oh no, no tricks, I cried. But as usual, no one was listening to me.
That's it?
Trap shouted.
That's the whole show? Good night. Yokai nai nai. Bye bye. Oh, Jaju minasai Jaju. Nai nai nai.
I might pass out soon because of how cozy story time is with Kyo, Oni, and Luca. If I do fall asleep, I wish you all a good night.
Of course, Tora. No problemo. I am just glad you are enjoying your story. Yes.
That's right.
And if you do fall asleep, have wonderful dreams.
That's the reason why we're doing this. Cozy time. Oh, no Yokai night. Oh, night, Jaji.
Thea was fuming. Whoops. Fuming. I opened my eyes long enough to see steam pouring from my ears. Before I knew it, we were rolling through the air. Then Thea put the plane into a tailspin. Thought I was going to lose my lunch. I'm not feeling too good, I murmured in a whisper. I grabbed an air sickness bag. Behind me, Trap kept squeaking away.
Really? That's all you can do, Thea?
He scoffed.
Maybe you should step aside. I bet I could fly this thing with my eyes closed.
By now, my eyes were sealed shut. Oh, why did I get onto this plane with these two nuts? I should have known this would happen. My sister and my cousin are like mold and cheese. They're just not good together.
Here comes the best part, the death loop, my sister squeaked.
I began to sob. The plane flipped in the air again and again. Yippee! My sister shouted.
Big deal,
Stammered Trap. I didn't say a word. Instead, I fainted. Trap brought me back by holding up a piece of smelly cheese under my nose. Please, no more, I cried, still shaking.
Oh, don't be such a coward.
My cousin scolded. We're almost there anyways. Minutes later, we dropped down into a runway. Tears sprang to my eyes, but this time they were tears of joy. I was alive. We climbed off the plane. A cute female mouse wearing a bikini greeted us. She hung a garland of flowers around each of our necks. "Welcome to Sweet Rose Island," she squeaked. Outside the airport, we headed for the rental cars. That's when I spotted a dented old Jeep with the words "Risky Rodent Travels" painted on the side. Suddenly, my stomach lurched. Why did I have a feeling that Jeep was for us? I was right. Thea jumped on board in a flash. She and Trap had to haul me on, kicking and squeaking. Oh, how had I gotten myself into this mess? Pretty sure landing's the most dangerous part. Yeah, for real. Thea sat behind the wheel. Then she turned the key. The Jeep roared off with a squeal of tires. The journey seemed to last forever. Finally, the car stopped with a jolt. I gathered my last bit of strength, called out. To my horror, I realized we were at a harbor. Thea immediately jumped into a dangerous-looking, pencil-thin speedboat. The others followed, but not me, not this time. I dug in my heels. I am not getting in, I shrieked. Boats are bad enough, but I cannot get in a speedboat. It's too scary. Just then, Trap let out a squeak.
Geronimo, look,
He cried, pointing to the bottom of the boat.
someone left a copy of Ratty Potter, and it's signed by the author.
For a moment, I forgot where I was. I love Harry Potter. He's a young mouse wizard who does all these incredible adventures. I have read all the books in the series. It would be so amazing to get a copy signed by the author. I leaned over to get a better look into the boat, and that's when Trap grabbed my tail, yanked me to the boat. I had been tricked. Thea started the engine. "Help! I'm being mouse-napped!" I shouted, terrified. But no one was around to hear me. No one except my family, that is. And they were the ones doing the mouse-napping.
Relax, big brother, squeaked Thea, fastening her seatbelt. We're off to Butterfly Island. Get ready for an amazing time.
There's this little insert about seasickness. Okay, here we go. Do you suffer from motion sickness? I do. I get sick on boats. I get sick on planes. I get sick in cars. It's really the most awful feeling. First my ears begin to buzz, then my tail twitches, and then my eyes cross, and then my stomach lurches. Finally, I turn as pale as a slice of mozzarella. When we reached Butterfly Island, Thea, Trap, and Benjamin had to carry me off the boat. 20.5. A wild Ruddy appears. Ruddy used to appreciate. Hey yo, came by to tell you that you were loved. I don't know you, but I bet you're an amazing person, and wish for you to have a wonderful life and have all of your dreams come true. Aww, that's so sweet. Thank you for saying something so wonderful. You know, I'm sure we really appreciate hearing such a lovely thing.
Thank you, thank you.
And we hope the same for you as well. I'm not getting on a plane, boat, or car ever again. He stared at me with an innocent expression. Who said you have to? She smiled. You mean no planes? I asked, looking around. No planes, she replied. No boats, I continued, still not convinced. Not a one, she agreed. No cars, no trains. I pressed in disbelief. She just kept shaking her head. At last I heaved a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. There'd be no more wild rides. I was beginning to feel like my old self again. Which way do we go now? I asked. Where's the famous Valley of the Cheez-Its? Thea waved her paw in one direction. Oh, it's right around here, she answered. No problem.
Oh, that's so sweet. You're so sweet.
Wait, then how's he gonna get out of there? I wondered the same thing. I unfolded a map. That's when I noticed something. The whole island was shaped like a giant butterfly. Oh, very odd, I thought. I looked around me. There was green everywhere. Green trees, green bushes, green grass. This place was a gardener's dream. I stepped forward into the high grass, and I stopped. A strange feeling came over me. There was something wrong with this picture. I just couldn't quite put my paw on it. Behind me, I heard Trap humming a silly tune. It was from some popular TV show. My cousin loves cartoons. He knows all the theme song by heart. At that moment, I realized what was wrong with the island. There were no rodents. There were no buzzing insects. No chirping sounds. There were no sounds at all, except for Trap. It was quieter than the Cheddarton Library when Mrs. Hushermouse was working. I felt a shiver run up my tail. My paws began to shake. My heart started to race. What kind of island was this? Trap snatched the map from me. He studied it for a few seconds, and then he clapped his paws together. "Follow me," he ordered, leading the way. We started marching. We marched for 1 hour. We marched for 2 hours. We marched for 3 hours. The sun began to set. We had been marching for at least 5 hours. Soon it was dark. I could barely see my nose on the end of my snout. I mentioned I'm afraid of the dark. I'm also not the most in-shape mouse on the block. In fact, I guess you could say I'm in no shape. No shape for running or jogging or even fast walking. Can we take a break now? I begged. But Trap insisted that we were almost there. I groaned. My paws were covered in blisters. The backpack Thea had loaned me weighed more than my Uncle Cheese Belly after Christmas dinner. I felt like I had been run over by a 50-pound block of Swiss. Even my whiskers were sweating. Just then, I had the most horrible thought. "Trap, are you sure you know where you're going?" I asked my cousin. He whirled around, annoyed.
Of course I'm sure. We go forward,
squeaked Trap. I thought about that for a moment. But where are we headed? I inquired nervously. My cousin stamped his paws.
Are your ears filled with cheese? He shrieked. Forward means forward, doesn't it?
He snorted in disgust. At that moment, my sister chimed in. Where exactly are we headed, Trap? She asked. My cousin waved his paw in the air.
Well, it looks like we're in the middle of a forest, right?
He said, pointing to all the trees surrounding us.
And the sea is behind us, right? So I figure if we keep going forward, we're bound to get somewhere, right?
My sister put her paws on her hips. So basically, you're telling us you have no idea.
Hello, Mimi. Hello, hello.
She shrieked in a fit of anger. The two of them were soon at each other's throats. We decided to set up camp for the night. I was exhausted. As soon as the camp's fire burned out, I fell into a deep, deep sleep. I dreamed I was having a romantic dinner with Stephanie Bon Sugarfur. She was smiling at me like I was the best thing since individually lapped mozzarella balls.
"Oh, Geronimo, you're such a wonderful mouse," she squeaked. "I've never met a rodent like you."
I held her paw. I was so happy. I could sit and stare into her eyes all night. But suddenly, I woke up with a start. Someone was shaking me by the shoulder. Who was it? Leave me alone, I mumbled. It was Benjamin.
"Shh, Uncle, you have to see this,"
he whispered, tugging on my paw.
"Come with me, but shh, don't make any noise."
I did the pew-pew, came for the story time. Ooh, nice.
I was gonna say, isn't this? I mean, didn't they just think about the Cheez-Its land is like the 8th wonder of the world, yet to be discovered?
Yep, they're trying to find it.
Yeah, so I mean, that mouse did have a good point. Just keep going straight.
True. I mean, it's just one island.
That's right.
Probably gonna hop out now too. You two have fun. Okay, Toad. Thanks for stopping by, Toad. You have a good day,
Nice
Toad.
night. Have a nice night.
Benjamin brought me to the mouth of a cave, and he pointed towards a small butterfly flying over our heads. It was yellow, with tiny holes. It looked like a slice of cheese. How extraordinary, I exclaimed. I've never seen such a butterfly. Maybe it comes from a mysterious valley.
"That's what I was thinking, Uncle," whispered Benjamin. "The valley of the zzZZ."
The small butterfly was flitting about in front of us. It seemed to be inviting us to follow it. Very strange, I thought. Why would a butterfly want to hang out with a couple of mice? Didn't he have any butterfly friends? Just then, the butterfly slipped into the cave without thinking. Benjamin and I followed it. cave was damp, dark. I couldn't see my own whiskers in front of my snout. It was so dark, I lost track of Benjamin. Where are you, nephew? I cried in panic, my words echoing in the dark.
I'm right behind you, Uncle.
Benjamin's voice answered again and again. We held tails so we wouldn't lose track of each other. At that moment, I saw a terrifying sight. 2 spooky yellow eyes were looking at us in the dark. They probably belonged to a mouse-eating monster. Rancid rat hairs, I shrieked. My voice echoed in the deep. My blood froze in my veins. My whiskers started to tremble. Something is watching us, I told Benjamin. I didn't want to scare him. I mean, he's only 9 years old. Still, I thought he should know if we were about to be eaten. But instead of squeaking, my nephew just giggled.
Don't be afraid, Uncle. These aren't eyes, he explained. They're the butterfly wings. Glow in the dark.
Closer look, Benjamin was right. It was a butterfly after all. I felt a little silly for being such a scaredy mouse, but luckily my nephew adores me. He would never make fun of his favorite uncle. The butterfly led us deeper and deeper into the darkness. Now we had to follow it. Its wings were our only light. The cave grew narrower and narrower. I guess you could say it was shaped like a slice of cheese. At the end, there was a tiny hole. The butterfly disappeared through it. I tried to follow, but the hole was much too small for me. It was too small for any adult mouse. Only a small mouse Benjamin's size could fit through it.
Let me go, Uncle, I whispered. I'll be careful. I brought my camera. I can take lots of pictures.
I put my paw around my nephew. I made him promise me 10 times to be careful. And then he kissed my snout and disappeared through the tiny opening. I sat down and waited. Every now and then, I would peek into the hole and squeak, Benjamin? 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 Unfortunately, I'd forgotten my watch. I had no idea how much time had gone by. Was it an hour? Was it a day? Was it forever and a day? I started to worry about Benjamin. It was just a little thing. What if something happened to him? I would never forgive myself for letting him go. Oh, how could I have been so foolish? 2 p.m. for me. I just feel a bit drunk since yesterday. I saw that you were doing a little bit of drinking on stream. I tuned in for a little bit. I should have never let him disappear into that hole. Now I was stuck in this creepy dark cave all alone. Benjamin, come back, I sobbed. I'm afraid of the dark. Finally, I heard a rustling sound. It was Benjamin. I was so happy. I began squeaking like the head cheerleader at a rap ball game. I was worried about you, I cried, giving him a hug. I was worried about myself, too. 1 more minute alone in the dark, and I'd have gone completely nuts.
Uncle,
Benjamin cried now, grabbing my paw.
I saw it. I saw the Valley of the zzZZ. It was unbelievable. It was amazing. It was more beautiful than a room of cheddar bars.
I'm so proud of you, Benjamin, I squeaked. And I was. That nephew of mine really was a brave little rodent. I peeked through the narrow hole, trying to catch a glimpse of the valley, but it was too dark.
Don't worry, Uncle. I took lots of pictures.
It was time to go. I couldn't wait to tell the others of our news. Goodbye, Butterfly, Benjamin called over his shoulder.
Thanks for the tour.
I headed back through the cave. I followed a small light up ahead, and it was the entrance to the cave. And suddenly, a low rumbling shook the walls. Rocks began to crumble down around us. Cheese noodles, I shrieked. It's an avalanche! Run quick, nephew, or we'll be trapped inside! Avalanche? Isn't that more of a cave-in?
Yeah.
Ah, whatever. Just then, an enormous boulder struck Benjamin, and he fainted! Oh my god. I was terrified.
He's dead.
No! I chewed my whiskers. I twisted my tail up in knots. I cried 20 buckets of tears. And then a rock hit me on the head. It must have knocked some sense into me. This was no time to feel sorry for myself. I had to save my nephew. With a groan, I lifted Benjamin onto my shoulder. Did I mention I'm not the strongest mouse on the block? Still, fear must have given me strength. I raced for the exit like an Olympic track rat champion. Just as I ran out of the cave, a huge boulder blocked the entrance. Right then, Benjamin opened his eyes.
Uncle Geronimo, thanks for saving my life, he grinned. You're a real hero.
I smiled back. I wasn't about to tell him how scared I had been. After all, it wouldn't be nice to disappoint him. Don't mention it, I shrugged, untwisting my tail. Back at camp, my dear relatives Thea and Trap were busy. No, They weren't busy worrying about us. They were busy snoring away.
Wake up! Wake up!
Benjamin shrieked.
Found the eighth wonder of the world.
2 sleepy heads were up in a flash. I too hate it when I get caught in a landslide. Oh my god. No! Those are legit, they happen! That's why I don't know if you're being serious or not, Silo, and that scares me.
Yes. So I do unlike it when the landslide is in a cave. And vice versa. I'm being caved in on top of a mountain!
I have not, thankfully. Oh, phew, okay. Yeah, like mudslides, landslides. Scary stuff. Narrowly missed one though. Oh, sheesh. Ah!
It's Kudo.
It's Kudo. Hello. How are you? How was stream? You were just chatting? Hello? Hello? I am reading a story suggested by Tora.
Very unique.
Yeah, it's very mouse themed, very cheese themed.
And lots of mouse puns too.
Wokch. Emmy! Hello. Hello, Arya. Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Having story time stream today. It's a bit cheesy. Oh, sheesh. No, Kuro, go to bed. Oh, yes. Kuro, go to bed. It's almost 2. Benjamin told us all about his incredible adventure. It seems our little butterfly friend had taken him to the top of the mountain peak. It overlooked a valley. The valley was long and wide, and it glowed in a bright yellow light. It was so bright at first that Benjamin covered his eyes. But when he opened them, he saw the most amazing thing. There wasn't really a light at all. There were just yellow butterflies. Hundreds and thousands and millions of butterflies. Have a good stream. Thank you, I will. I hope you had a good one too. Make sure you rest and eat and hydrate and stuff because you don't do that and it bothers me.
Thank you for the follow.
Thank you for the follow, Makoto. And then they flapped their wings. It smelled like cheese, Benjamin exclaimed. The butterflies were very friendly. They even sat on Benjamin's nose.
I took lots of pictures, he finished. I even took one of myself using the self-timer. Wait till you see it.
They clapped her paws. This is Fabulamouse, she shrieked. We're all going to be famous. I'll write the best story ever. It will sell like hot cheese buns in a blizzard. Trap jumped to his paws.
I've got an even better idea, he announced. First, we catch a whole bunch of those butterflies, and then we smash them into a book, and then we frame each one. We'll make a bundle.
I shook my head. Only my rotten cousin would think of squishing those beautiful butterflies. He would do anything for money. Benjamin looked horrified. He turned to me with tears in his eyes. Don't worry, nephew, I soothed. No one is going to lay a paw on the butterflies. I shot. Trap a look. Besides, I added, there was an avalanche. The entrance to the cave is blocked forever. Well, it's more of a cave-in, but okay. He agreed he didn't need the real butterflies. Benjamin's pictures would tell the whole story. She took the camera and rolls of film for my nephew, and she carefully slipped them into a plastic bag. Those photographs were more precious than cheese. They were the only proof of our discovery. Trap insisted on carrying the bag. I wasn't surprised. My cousin likes to feel important. Well, my work here is done. I found the Valley of the zzZZ. Now let's go home. I was too tired. Besides, we all knew Benjamin had really found the valley. We packed up our stuff and headed home. The trip was long and painful. I poked myself in the eye on the speedboat. I was trying to cover my glasses. I didn't want to see— oh, wait. Poked myself in the eye on the speedboat. I was trying to cover my glasses. That's weird. Cover your glasses. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. I didn't want to see the scary waves. Then I sprained my ankle jumping off the jeep. Thea drove so fast. I just had to get out, and I fainted on the airplane. We hadn't even taken off. I guess just thinking about my sister's tricks up in the air was enough to do me in. The only thing that kept me going was the Countess. Yes, adoring and sweet Stephanie von Sugarfur. Soon. Soon we would be famous. She wouldn't be able to resist me. I'd come back a hero. I giggled to myself. Then the countess saw me, a mouse TV. She'd fall at my paws. At last we reached the new mouse city. I was so happy to be home. I couldn't wait to take a long hot bath. I couldn't wait to sleep in my comfy bed. But mostly, I couldn't wait to see Stephanie von Sugarfur. Still, there was no time to relax yet. As soon we landed, we hurried to the office. We wanted to get the paper ready. It would be an amazing breaking story. We had found the 8th wonder of the world. I could hardly believe it myself. Thea began making a lot of phone calls. Yes, yes, darling, I've already written a thrilling article, she exclaimed. Of course there will be pictures, tons and tons of pictures. You'll see the stunning valley, you'll get the gorgeous butterflies. I've got the photos right here in the office. She turned to my cousin and winked. For some reason, Trap was looking a little pale. He flopped into a chair, sweat dripping down his fur. Maybe he was just overexcited. I was excited too. It wasn't every day he became famous. My sister hung up, and she turned to Trap. Okay, cousin, give me the pictures, she demanded. We've got to get them developed right away. Trap sunk deeper into his chair.
Well, I, might have lost them, he said.
What?
And then smiled nervously. My sister's jaw hit the ground. Her whiskers started to tremble. Steam poured from her ears. She narrowed her eyes.
Oh! It's Piley.
Hi, Piley. Did you have a good dream? Hello, hello. Were we playing League? Nice, nice. Are we doing rank today or just casual play? Called it. Hello. Hello! Yes, Silo's prediction of the story was correct. Played with a bunch of friends? Nice! Always fun to play with friends. Always, always. I say this genuinely because I like playing with my friends.
That's right.
It's going very good. Thank you for asking. We're almost done, I think. Pretty sure. My sister's jaw hit the ground. Her whiskers started to tremble. She narrowed her eyes at my cousin.
This is one of your silly jokes, right? She shrieked.
I stared at Trap. I had a funny feeling in the pit of my stomach. For once, my prankster cousin was not joking. Trap managed to smile at my sister.
Well, I might have left them at the camp, he explained. Or maybe I dropped them on the beach. Or I could have left them on the speedboat. Or maybe they fell out of the Jeep. We did hit a lot of potholes, you know.
Thea tried to grab him by the throat, but he was too quick. So she chased him around the desk, squeaking at the top of her lungs. I tried to calm them down. Take it easy. It's not that bad, I offered. Uh-oh. Wrong thing to say. Tia stopped running after Trap. Now she was coming after me. One thing you should know about my sister is she has an awful temper. Once, I ran after her furry field mouse doll with my tricycle. That was an accident. I mean, it was only a mouse sled at the time. Tia got so mad, she smashed my bike to pieces. The only thing left was the horn. Now she turned to me in rage. It's not that bad, she shrieked. How are we ever going to prove we found the Valley of the Cheez-Its? Before I could think, Benjamin piped up.
Wait a minute, Auntie, he cried. I've got an idea.
He lifted his red hat. A small yellow butterfly flew out. It sat down on his shoulder. She must have hidden under my hat. Oh, sorry.
She must have hidden under my hat when we were in the cave, Benjamin said, grinning. Isn't she cute? I call her Cheez-It.
She was fascinating. She was bright yellow with holes like a slice of Swiss cheese. A cheesy smell filled the air around her. I watched the small butterfly fly around Benjamin. Tia broke wide into a smile. That's it, she shouted. We don't need pictures to prove we found the Valley of the Cheez-Its. We have our own cheese right here.
Yay!
Hello, am I squeaking to Geronimo Stilton, the national hero, the famous publisher, one of the mice who discovered the Cheez-It butterfly, said a voice. I cleared my throat. Yes, I am. Geronimo Stilton, I began. It was the next day. I was back at the office, and I had been getting phone calls all morning from reporters. It seemed my family and I had become famous overnight. Not everyone wanted to know everything about us, and I mean everything. They wanted to know what kind of cheese I liked best. They wanted to know what kind of fur brush I used. They even wanted to know what kind of underwear I wore. It was crazy. My calendar was booked with interviews on TV. At the rate things were going, I wouldn't be free until Christmas. Just then, my secretary, Miss Leah, came charging in.
Mr. Stilton, the phones are ringing off the hook, she shouted. The operator has quit. The fax machine is spitting out paper, and the computers are bursting with email.
She paused to catch her breath.
By the way, did you know? You're in a Stilton fan club on the internet?
I sighed. Being Faye Mouse wasn't easy. Plus, the reporters had told me that an unmarried hero was the most popular kind. Now every female mouse in New Mouse City was out to meet me. I was more popular than a grilled cheese sandwich at a weight loss clinic. Suddenly, we heard a rumble. Mouse Leah let out a shriek.
Your female admirers have broken into the building. They're about to storm the office, she cried. But don't worry, boss. I'll get rid of them. Maybe I can throw them a hunk of cheese or something.
She raced off with a determined look on her snout. I shook my head. Then I stared out the window. Up at the sky, I spotted a plane carrying a banner that read, "I love Geronimo Stilton." Right then, my cousin Trap strode into the room. He winked at me.
Guess what, Sherrykins, he said. I have a surprise for you, and it's right behind this door.
I groaned. I really wasn't in the mood for one of my cousin's tricks. I don't have time for fun and games, Trap, I said. I'm trying to get rid of these female admirers. They won't leave me alone. My cousin giggled.
Come on, Jerry. Barry. Come, open the door.
He insisted. The fortune teller was right.
You'll like the surprise.
I scratched my fur. I thought only Thea had known about the fortune teller. How strange. Still, what had that fortune teller told me? She said if I would become Fame Mouse, well, that had certainly become true. And after I become Fame Mouse, she said a certain mouse would fall in love with me. Madly in love. Could it be true? I opened the door, and there she was. My beautiful, charming, sweet-smelling Countess Stephanie von Sugarfur. Only now, for some reason, she didn't seem so amazing anymore. She sauntered up to me.
Oh, dear Nemo, darling, she whispered. I'm so glad you're home. Thank you so much for the roses, and the chocolates were delightful.
I blinked. Oh yes, now I remembered. I had sent the Countess flowers and that huge box of candy. How strange. It seemed like ages ago. So much had happened to me since then.
I want to hear all about your trip, Stephanie went on. Every last detail.
I twirled my tail. I'd been talking to reporters all morning. I just wasn't in the mood to tell the whole story again. Well, we went and we came back, I mumbled. It's no big deal. The Countess frowned. I could tell she was waiting for me to fall over her. But the truth was, I suddenly wasn't interested in her anymore. Oh, she was still a beautiful mouse, but my heart wasn't beating wildly like before. My paws weren't sweating, and I didn't feel dizzy when I looked at her. So I told her I didn't love her anymore. Stephanie turned pale. I think no one had ever turned her down before. She was used to getting her mouse. First, she yelled at me, and then she cried, and then she tried inviting me to dinner party at the mayor's mansion, but I said no. Wanna know why? I couldn't care less. Maybe I was just tired. Or maybe I was just tired of the Countess. Now that I had helped discover the eighth wonder of the world, she didn't seem so special anymore. Oh well, I guess that's love for you. 1 minute you're in it, the next minute you're not. That night, I was so happy to be home. Alone at last, I said with a sigh. Unplugged my phone. Being Fame Mouse was harder than I thought. Reporters called me all day long, and my female admirers were everywhere. They followed me to breakfast. They followed me to lunch. I was tired of my staring at me while I ate. All of those beady little eyes watching my every move. They giggled when I slurped my soup. They sighed when I dropped my napkin. It was enough to make a mouse quit eating altogether. I decided I needed to unwind. I made myself a yummy mozzarella milkshake. And then I took a steamy hot bubble bath. I just climbed out of the tub when my cell phone rang. Hello? I squeaked, annoyed. I wasn't really in the mood for chatting. All I wanted to do was relax all by myself. No! Zach, no! Thank you for the raid! Hello! I hope you had a good stream.
Welcome, raiders.
Jerrykins, dear, it's your beloved sister, Thea's voice shouted. I wanted to invite you to my place. Will you come? Okay, I'll be waiting. Bye!
Kingdom Hearts 2? Ooh, moving on. Moving on to 2. I stamped my paw. No, wait a minute, I shrieked. I don't want to go out. Oh my god.
So read me to sleep, please, and thanks.
Read me to sleep. Okay, I'm trying. I'm reading a story that Tora suggested. I stabbed my paw. No, wait a minute, I shrieked. I don't want to go out. But it was too late. She had already hung up. I dragged myself to my sister's place. She lived close by. Probably think I'm one lazy mouse. But I'm not. I just needed one lazy night. Of course, now I was struck, waiting outside my sister's front door. She better make this quick, I thought. I knocked on the door. Inside, I could hear lots of excited giggles. And then someone murmured, "Shh." Everything went silent. I pushed on the door. It opened. I blinked. The room was completely dark. Anyone home? I asked wearily. Also, thank you for the follow, Dark Fox. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Suddenly, all the lights came on. There he is! There's my brother! Geronimo Stilton! Thea shouted. 38 female mice began to shriek.
Geronimo Stilton, we love you!
They cried. I felt faint. My heart began to pound. My whiskers shook. No, this is not happening, I told myself. I don't want to do this. Not on my pig out on cheese night. Not on my be by myself night. Maybe I'm just having a bad dream, I decided. Yes, that must be it. I tried closing my eyes. I tried practicing some meditation. I tried sneaking out the front door. But before I could escape, he had grabbed my paw.
Sit there at the head of the table, big brother, she instructed. My friends here want to have you tell them all about your trip.
Then she leaned close to my ear.
And you better make it good,
she whispered. Meanwhile, Thea's friends were hanging all over me. I could hardly move.
You're my hero, a honey-colored mouse squeaked. I want to know everything about your trip and about you,
a furry gray mouse winked.
You're so much cuter than your picture,
a tawny mouse whispered. Thea fluffed up her fur. She was so proud of herself. She loved being in charge. Plus, having me as her brother had made her more popular than ever. I looked around. My admirers were everywhere. They stroked my fur, they pinched my tail, they stared deeply into my eyes. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I just had to get away. I took off like a shot. The mice charged after me. I flung open the door to the closet and locked myself behind it.
Geronimo, come out,
squeaked my admirers.
We love you.
I rested my head on my paws, and then I sighed. Oh well, I guess that's love for you. The end.
So in the end, he became famous, he rejected the girl that he thought he liked, and now he's being chased by every female now.
Yep.
Nice.
Played it so many times before. It was my first time streaming, playing it in a while. Played Kingdom Hearts 1 and Chain of Memories on stream beforehand. Ew, you played Chain of Memories on stream? Gross. I'm just kidding. I don't really like that game, but the story in it is really good. I played it once. Was not a huge fan. So yes, I want to thank Toda for the wonderful suggestion. That was like, it was actually kind of long. I didn't think it was that long, but it was pretty good. It was funny, very cheesy, very mouse themed.
Yeah, it was good.
But it was very enjoyable. Yes, yes, very, very good. And I want to thank everybody, obviously, for joining our wonderful reading, cozy, comfy stream today. And that is where we will be leaving off, I think.
Yeah, good stories. We read Thumbelina, and then we read
Monkey Paw.
Monkey Paw, some poems, and this story.
Yes.
Yeah.
All because a cup of coffee.
Oh, yep, this coffee.
I also want to thank the wonderful people who rated us today, and also all the people that stayed with us and commented on like the crazy stuff that happened. You guys are all wonderful, and we just appreciate you. Oh, one fast one. Let me see. Oh, this is pretty quick. Okay, I can read this. I'll read this for you. Silo.
Last poem, everyone.
Last one, best one. Tune. I don't know if I'm gonna say this correctly, Silas, so forgive me if I say their name wrong. Spring at Wuling. Spring ends. The wind subsided, faded all the flowers in the muddy earth. A lingering fragrance of petals. Dusk falls. I'm in no mood to comb my hair. Things remain, but all is lost. Now he's no more. Tears choke my words. I hear Twin Brooks is still sweet with the breath of spring. How I too love to go for a row on a light skiff. I only fear at Twin Brooks my grasshopper of a boat would be able to bear such a load of grief. No. No. That one was sad.
That
That was really good though. I enjoyed that one. Thank you, Silo. Yes, during story time, everybody, we will read stories and we'll also read poetry. Sounds like they're mourning. Yeah, person is mourning. Yes. Beautiful, beautiful, but sad. Oh yes. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Now, unfortunately we have to end stream. I don't want to. I would love to keep reading for everybody, but we cannot. Sorry.
just gotta wait till next month. We'll do it again this month at the end of Tuesday, like the last week of Tuesday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. We'll probably do it. We usually do it on Tuesdays. Towards the end of the month. We missed last month because I was sick, but we decided to do it today.
Well, that. So keep a lookout. It's gonna be on May 31st.
Okay. Well, since we're kind of in a cozy mood, let us
Right.
go raid maybe somebody who's also doing something cozy. Birdie is on. Birdie is also part Tengu. And a very wonderful ASM artist. We'll read them. Tengu love, everybody. Tengu love, okay? Okay, there's our wonderful raid message. If you so choose to stay and raid, I would very much appreciate it. Yeah, have a good night. Thank you, Silo. So tomorrow, Luca should be coming, correct? With your stream?
That's right. Another Fallout stream. Still not gonna find my son, but hopefully we'll have Kate fall in love with us, and then afterwards we'll bring another girl to our harem. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Another harem. So yes, Luca will be back with his solo stream tomorrow. We'll be taking a break, and then we will come back for Final Fantasy on Thursday.
No wait,
right?
did you say? Thought there was something on Thursday that was gonna happen.
I don't think it's this Thursday.
Okay.
It'll be later. But I do have something fun happening on Friday, but I'll probably talk about that more on Thursday. So, but I hope everybody has a wonderful day, night, evening, morning. Thank you all. You guys are lovely. I love you. We love you. Bye bye, everybody.
Yep. Yokai bye everyone.
Yokai bye-bye.
Goodbye.